for next meeting, okay?
Oh, I didn't open that one.
What is it?
The financial statement.
Good evening. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and first up tonight, Mark Smith. You must be Mark.
I get to go first, man.
Yes, please. We're excited to hear what you have to say. For us, you might want to.
So we've got it loaded on the laptop, and a little click and you should be working there if you want to grab it.
Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh, you guys are so good. Well, great. Well, thanks for giving me time, you guys. And Mike, thanks for helping me with all this stuff.
Sure.
It's phenomenal. Well, good. You guys, I just want to walk you through the old Polar Palace. We're in the process right now of updating it and getting it ready for the community use. Instead of being a ice arena, we're going to have it where it's turf and courts. So make it a little more user-friendly for a lot of the kids now who are going out to Waterford or, God forbid, Brighton. Don't envy those parents at all. But I'll walk you through a little bit. This is only about a 3-hour presentation. But I want to give you just a little shout out real quick. I'll tell you, I always say it takes a village to raise a village. And so whenever we do something like this, we've got 14 projects going on around the nation. It's always great when you can get people in the city who are behind it and help out, and it's awesome. And I got to say, Marlena, Matt, Chris, Kim, Ron, awesome people. Like, I need other people in New York to learn. This is how we do it in Lapeer. But yeah, so anyway, we're going to try to get open as soon as possible. What we're going to try to do is do a phased approach so we can get kids in there on the turf first, then on the courts, then we got a golf area. So I'll walk you through a little of these phases here. Now this will look weird, we're kind of looking top down, but as we look, on the left-hand side is the entrance when you come in, so we're going to try to have the little entrance area all the way through to the turf open for the kids, so they can start playing soccer and lacrosse and cheerleading practice and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get that going. Soon as that's done, then we're going to work on phase 2, which is just the other old ice rink will become our court space. So we'll have pickleball and volleyball and basketball. We'll be doing a lot of handicap accessible sports on that court space, which is really nice. You can get 26 different sports in there. So do a lot of that. That'll be a lot of fun. We heard that there are some cheerleading teams that need it as well. So I guess we're going to see cheer in there as well. Then we're going to have upstairs, used to be an old banquet room. So it was like this weird Soul Train dance floor out there and everything. So we'll get rid of that, and that's going to become golf simulators. So we'll have 2 teaching bays, 3 playing bays. So on days like this where it's freezing cold, we can go and play some good golf in Spanish Bay and things like that. So be a ton of fun. We're also going to have a med spa that'll be there. So we'll see as we work with them. That'll be a really nice thing for a lot of the parents and a lot of the players, so they can get a little rehab done as well. Then we'll have kind of our end piece that we'll do is we've got a lot of locker rooms, 8 locker rooms, and kind of in our space, you try to get rid of locker rooms anytime you can. You don't want showers, anything like that. Keep the creepers out. So we're going to turn that into flex space. So we'll have a lot of those that'll be used for birthday parties, for Zumba classes, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yoga, things like that. So you'll see that as it starts going, we'll have a lot of the rooms will be used for kids right after school for homework. So we'll have Wi-Fi, so when the kid comes in, the ultimate goal is they'll be able to come in, get their homework done, go work out in the Gronk fitness area, right? Grab a protein drink, right? Get on the court of the field. They're great. Parents don't have to travel all over. You don't have to find out, where to go to eat. You're just right there. Now, speaking of eating, our last thing that we'll have, our last phase, will be the restaurant area. And so we're looking at that space right now. It's the old Louis. May become a restaurant, may become physical therapy. We'll see, right? That's kind of on the back burner for us right now. We'll keep those doors kind of locked and closed with a pardon our dust. And so we'll have that coming up. So really that's kind of it. Our look when you come in should be kind of a fresh look. You'll see a lot of blacks and grays. but a lot of graphics, so it should be pretty exciting to come in there and see that space used again. We're just excited that the community can use it, so it'll be really cool. And by the way, I love pickleball. I'm terrible at it, so if anybody wants to play, you're welcome to whoop me.
I'll teach you, just come on by.
Okay, good, I need it. So good, that's all we had tonight. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, for everybody does, you guys can reach me. I'm usually up there at the facility. But yeah, if you guys have questions, feel free to email me, marksmith@smitharenas.com, or you can go onto our website, smitharenas.com. Click contact us, and it comes right to me.
Do any of the commissioners want to address a question at this time?
Mayor, I have a question and comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm sure everybody in the room is thinking the same thing I am, and which is, do you have a time frame for being open?
Kind of. So we're trying to do it as quickly as possible. The city's been incredible at doing it. So we're trying to, gun for, end of this quarter, right, March, April-ish kind of thing. So we'd like to have phase 1 going there. We've got the crews poised and ready to go. Trying to get them all to pull permits, which is easy to do. All they have to do is apply for it. So we'll try to get phase 1 at least up and running. Once we do that, I think the rest moves through pretty quickly, right? Getting the court space open that should be very quick. That first phase is just a lot of things. It's the restrooms and getting everything ready. So as soon as we do that and have our C of O, we'll start rolling on the other things.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that the city's new approach to being business friendly is working for you. But additional comment, one of the things that I often see posted on Facebook, and just the chattering here in the community, is that cities have moved away from having like kid-friendly activities, kid-friendly spaces, kid-friendly third places. And I guess I'm just happy to say that this is one of those things I think this community is going to really embrace. And I'll be very hopeful and happy to see a bunch of kids utilizing your space. So thank you for that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, we see the Aspen Institute out of New York did a great study, and they kind of showed cities like yours that are like, bring this back, do this. You start seeing with kids all the way up through high school, where when you have a facility like this, it reduces suicidal tendencies, risky behavior, drug use, all comes down. And you see these kids who enter into sports, even if they're not playing, and they're more like, hey, I'm just gonna go hang out there. It's a positive environment. And you see these being more productive workers, right? And so it's great to see. So hopefully we do that, we'll see the same trends here as well.
So it's just a silly comment, I'm sorry.
No.
So I grew up kind of going to a YMCA in my community.
Yeah.
And in addition to all the sports and stuff we used to play, we also used to do things like building model rockets.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be space for something like that?
Yeah, so we've got space. A lot of what you see kind of along those lines are drones. So
Okay.
they need
Back in the
space.
80s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, you're rough.
So yeah, drone use, you see a lot of STEM things, so that it's got wide open space. So you'll see like in our court space in our field, a lot of the STEM people will come in and use that, so.
Awesome.
Yep, that'll be really cool. But yeah, it's, think of any time, like when we're looking in the morning, we were just talking, like, so for example, our morning programming will be first responders and seniors, right? So that's from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m., right? Anytime within there. We'll have, as you go through, we'll have a lot of people that'll come through, play pickleball. We'll start getting into those that are homeschooled, right? Start getting their soccer programs and basketball and volleyball programs in. Then we start getting into the middle schools and high schools. And then about 8 o'clock at night, 8:30, we start doing adults. So it'll be fun.
Thank you. This was a rather quick presentation, so I'm wondering, is that also online? Can I go online and see what you?
I can send it to you, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we
that'd
don't
be
have it
great.
online. Online's more like investor relations kind of thing.
Oh, well, I'm
So we've
not
got
the
that. We've got
best.
some videos with Gronk on there, things like that. Our podcast. Yeah, I can send this to you so you can see it.
Is that
Okay.
something the city can post on our Facebook page?
Sure, if you'd like to, yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if you could send it to me.
You got it, yeah. Great. So, good. Yeah, and any question if you guys have, if you're wondering, if you're like, hey, the school's doing X, Y, and Z, can we do that? Or, we've got a Parks and Recs program that we're looking to, anything. We're here to help, We just want to make communities better, and, we're doing that throughout the nation. It's great. Love it. You guys are very forward thinking, so congratulations. You see a lot of times cities will think of this when it's far too late. Right, they've got now a lot of crime in the area, right? You've got a lot of drug abuse going on, you've got risky behavior. Then they're like, oh, can we save it? Well, then it comes to a point where like, we can put one up, nobody wants to come there, right?
Yeah.
So this is great when you have a community that's so incredible, and then you add this, you're like, oh my gosh, you just took it to another level. So, really cool. Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Okay, well, we will continue on with public comments. Tonight is just the one first public comment at the beginning of the meeting. There will not be a second for this meeting only. Who would like to go first? Just raise your hand. Go ahead, sir.
My name's Craig Whitman. I'm kind of from the Lapeer Community Pickleball Group. Come here 2 years now, the past 2 years and today. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States. Your grandmother can play and your grandkid can play. You can't say that about too many other sports. So it's great for the exercise. It's fast moving, eye coordination. It's kind of a combination of ping pong and tennis. We frequently have 25 to 30 players at the community center in the mornings from Monday through Thursday. We have 2 courts and kind of a half a court in the back too, so a lot of people are waiting to play. What we want to get is outside courts at Crampton if we can. According to your newspaper article from 2 years ago, and we talked about this earlier, that $330,000 was earmarked for pickleball and for the what was that thing when they throw the frisbee?
Disc golf.
Disc golf.
And they got their disc golf thing, but we didn't get our pickleball. It was written in the paper. I got the paper here. It's even yellow from 2 years ago. So what we're trying to do is get those courts outside, more courts. And we did resurface the 3 courts that we had with some kind of temporary barriers in the back. But we'd like something better than that if we could get it. Crampton would be perfect for that. It needs to be resurfaced, of course, and fences, and even lights would be nice because there's lights there already. Right now, people are going to all different areas around the pier to play pickleball, especially in the winter, because there's not enough space at the community center. They go to the Cage in Schwartz Creek. They have all basketball courts there, but in the morning, they dedicate the whole thing to pickleball. So a lot of people go there, and it's pretty inexpensive. Church in Oxford, they go there on 2 nights of the week. Lake Orion Cirque, the old high school, they have 3 inside courts that only charge you $3 to play, which is pretty inexpensive. But again, we're going down to Lake Orion and spending our money there. We could rather spend it here in Lapeer. Let's see with my glasses here. Just got my eyes done for cataracts. So Lake Orion Genesis has 8 to 12 courts. They just converted, I think, 4 tennis courts to more pickleball courts. So they're actually taking away tennis courts because pickleball is becoming more interested than tennis. Where else we got here? The church in Davison, Church in Davison has, I think, 3 courts, and they get a lot of play on those courts. So what we're looking for basically is some more outside courts here. Oh, Hadley has outside courts now, or going to have them, and so does Imlay City. So we're looking to get courts here because there's a huge interest here. We've had a lot of play outside in the summertime here at Lapeer, so that's kind of what we were looking for, and hopefully it'll come to fruition. So that's all I got to say. But if anybody here wants to learn how to play pickleball, I'd be happy to teach them. Anybody here in this room can play pickleball easily too, and you have fun, and your grandkids can come with you. So it's great. It's a great sport. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just speak from here?
It'd be better if you could speak over here, because there's the speaker and this
I'm just-
meeting,
this is a
this
ditto.
meeting's being taped, that way they can.
My name is Chris, I'm from Alva Township, and just to ditto what he said, I see some fellow pickleballers here. Thanks to Rodney for putting in the outdoor courts at the rec center this summer. I think it was a start. It's not regulation courts, but at least it's better than nothing. The indoor courts there are something, but we're really bound by the walls and the curtains and all that stuff. And we get quite a few people, sometimes there's as many as 15 to 20 people there.
We had 23 today, and then we've had days where there's been up to 30.
Yeah, and a lot of waiting, and it's a great group of people, you know, and Crampton really is the perfect spot. It's got the lights, it's got the bathrooms, and parking, and easy to get to, and I think it was in the paper in 23 where
Yeah.
they're actually gonna do that, so I don't know if anybody has any, you know, comment on that, but I thought it was in the works already, and last summer I didn't see anything going on. Those courts there are dilapidated, the tennis courts, prime for just redoing it, you know, and I'm sometimes pickleballer, but it's really a great sport, and we're having a lot of fun, but we need more space, we really do. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, could I address the pickleball thing real quick before, because
Sure, go ahead.
the
Mr.
pickleball people
Womack.
love you guys, very passionate about the sport. So Rodney and I put together how many courts behind the rec center this past summer? Okay. We did that on a dime. I thought we did a great job putting that together with basically no money. And then the Crampton Park plans, as far as I know, are still moving forward. The issue was we were waiting for a donation to come in from a person's estate, which got held up. But yeah, that is, I think, one of our major projects we're anticipating doing very soon. And we have some indoor courts coming at Smith Arena soon. So I think pickleball is moving forward in this community. It's just got to have a little time to do it.
Can I speak to?
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yep, email. Please come up to the podium, give your name.
Hi, my name is Alice Kovac. I'm Alba Township as well, behind Chris. I play pickleball. I mean, the community center is awesome, right? But I do go other places to play because it's so crowded. We have to wait. Most of the time it's spent waiting. We have 20 paddles on the wall, and there's 2 good courts, and those courts are already short. The rest of the space in the basketball courts, there's 1 person there. And yet we can't get extra time to play. It would be really nice if we could get full facilities indoors as well, because, you know, and it's not just all seniors. You know, I've heard some really disparaging remarks about a lot of us that are on silver sneakers and things like that. And so therefore, you know, we're not worth the investment or not worth the time, or, you know, we're just old people, right, that sit there, and we have time to sit there supposedly. I don't know what the attitude is, but, you know, all of us, there's young people, there's teachers there, we have the young kids come in, and we teach them, and we help them out to learn. So there's all varieties of levels of play and different things going on there. But, you know, we're sitting there all the time to play. So, yeah, like Greg said, a lot of us have had to go other places so we could get in at decent play time, plus play on a full court. Because the court's there, we have this much end. You know, and if they could open it up and make us a couple of decent courts at least, that would be something. But give us a little bit more space in the morning when it's not busy, when the kids are in school. You know, try to work on a plan to increase the space for indoors, because, you know, just because I'm retired doesn't mean that I have 4 hours to sit there twiddling my thumbs and gossiping. You know, that's not how I want to spend my time. I'm trying to exercise and, you know, that's what I'm trying, and learn the sport and play the sport. So really appreciate your time and for listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alice.
Thanks, Al.
John?
Hello, I'm John LeClaire, representing the Pure Optimist Club. I'm not here about pickleball. So I should be, but anyways. We're concerned about Park Street project and parking lot, I believe 9 it is. And obviously, we set up our tents and have our barbecue back there from the pier days. So we just want to be on the front end of the, make sure that we're on the front end of the planning, if at all possible, with that. Because right now, we drive stakes into the parking lot. We plug them when we're done, but I don't know that that's going to be a big interest of yours after you do the parking lot, us drilling stakes, pounding stakes into the new surface. So we were able to secure anchors on Main Street for our Nightmare on Nepessing tent, and that's been fabulous. You know, they're flush to the ground, and we don't have to bring near as many blocks in and stuff to stabilize that tent. But, so we'd like to have anchors. We'd like to be able to, again, be on the foresight of that and be able to put the anchors into the parking lot and then make sure that we have some room for our barbecue on the pier days, which right now is presently right along Park Street. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Go ahead, ma'am. Let's give your name.
Good
Tracy.
evening. My name is June Holen. I recently retired from 50 years of nursing with a specialty in anesthesia. I am not a pickleball player simply because I was suffered a medical experience last year. But I can tell you that my husband and his friends at that court are amazing people. They're just not trying to be healthier, but they're socially engaged. They're supportive of each other. It's a very healthy environment. And even though I'm not currently a pickleball player, I hope to be, but I think that anything in our community that gets people up and gets people moving is important, because our society overall is not a very healthy one. And we all, not all of us, but I put myself, I haven't been as active as I know that I should be. And pickleball gets these people moving, even regardless if they have a bad knee or, you know, bad foot or whatever, they still manage to ace it and wrap it and put things on it to play pickleball. So from a community standpoint and from a health standpoint, I think it's important to support it however we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else before we continue on with the agenda?
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll move on there. The next would be Mr. Womack. You want to lead us with the discussion on the 25-26 budget, please?
Well, it's not nearly as big as I hoped it would be.
Yeah, that's a little small.
Do slideshow, very,
Magnify. Oh, that's good.
Okay, so, of course, it's available on the city's website. If you guys want to go on the website and see it there. Last year, the city commission asked if they could be brought in on the budget discussions a little bit earlier than it's been done historically, previously in this community. Certainly, I see no issues with that. This is a policy-driven body, and the staff needs direction and needs policy given to us so we can understand what you guys want. So I figured it was a good opportunity, because we're just starting our budget season, and also we're talking about goals and objectives, to bring the commission in tonight to kind of brief you on what the department heads are saying are things that they're looking to purchase in the next budget year. Now, this has not been gone over by myself. This has not been gone over by finance. Largely, we don't even know what some of these things are going to cost us. That's the next step, right? For what I'm looking for tonight from the city commission is, you guys have all done your homework, I'm sure, to see what the department heads are looking for. And I'm looking for some yeses and nos, and more nos. The departments are pretty good at their jobs. I'm sure they're not asking for anything frivolous. But also, I want to present you guys the opportunity to ask questions of the department heads on the front end about anything that you have thoughts, questions, or concerns about, so that we have some better direction, understanding what your concerns might be when these things are brought back to you from a more final product at the end of this. So, you guys have the department head memos. Those are in the packet for tonight. It's on the city's website. I'm only going to discuss the city manager memo, which you see in front of you, which kind of details the bullet pointed list of the items that the department heads were asking for. So I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to spend forever on this, but we'll go through them real quick, and I guess questions or hard no's. I'd like to hear them now. Let's see. Sorry, I'm bringing it up on my computer since I can't see that either. All right. So we got the building department asking for a vehicle for the building official, and I should say new vehicle for the building official. He currently has a vehicle, and new office furniture for the building department staff. Any thoughts, questions, concerns on that? Mr. Brady?
Can you give me an update? What is the current vehicle that we have? I wasn't able to find that.
I believe it's an F-250 that you're driving.
So 2015 or 16 F-250 single cab truck, yeah.
And is there a proposed new vehicle?
So we haven't discussed that yet. This is obviously just coming from the department heads to me, and you guys are seeing kind of the front end of what I'm seeing. Traditionally, the city has hand-me-down vehicles from police department, DPW, and parks. They kind of get handed down to the next who needs it. I think perhaps a truck is not the right vehicle for the building department. Maybe an SUV or an old police cruiser might be a better option for him.
That's what I was wondering, F-250. Do you need a truck? Are you pulling equipment
No,
around,
I
or
don't
is
need
it?
a truck. I don't have room in the truck. Equipment doesn't stay attached to the truck because
Yeah.
the truck rides. I just don't have enough room. I carry some books, files, a
It's
lot of
a-
material that I.
It's a single cab, right?
It's a single cab.
Yep.
And it's owned by the city?
Yes. Yep. Now, of course, the city does have a pretty good program of cycling the vehicles through, and we've got a great mechanic staff that kind of lets us know what's a good vehicle. It's going to be around for a couple more years. What do we need to put on gov bids, et cetera. But again, I'm not making decisions. This is more just, so you guys know what's going on.
Mr. Brady?
Yeah, I'm kind of along this, the idea of, like, we've got some SUVs that might be serviceable still that can be used. Just looking at the, net revenue versus appropriation over the past couple of years, this is a department that's, struggled, and we obviously, like, we're glad to have you, and we want to make sure that this department's got everything that it needs. I would feel more comfortable if we got a little more positive traction in that department before we sink. Just vehicles are so expensive now
Yeah.
these days that if we have something else somewhere else, that would be
Sure.
my preference.
So great observation on the revenues versus expenditures, but of course, it's largely tied also to the economy.
Mhm.
So it's not entirely their fault. But yeah, it's hard, in my opinion.
Are you telling me that it's going to get better?
We hope, right?
I sure hope so.
We've got an awesome sports arena that's gonna
Yeah.
open up, that's gonna draw people into this community.
That's right.
Along with all the housing department, housing department helps, obviously, thank you. Housing developments that we're working on.
Mhm.
We're really hoping to explode the population in this community. And we'll need the, sports arenas and restaurants to do it for us, so.
And a few years ago, there was a vehicle, a car utilized for the building department.
So-
It's
Makes more
actually
sense.
Actually, the same vehicle. Reason I went the route that I did is because under the recommendations from the mechanics
Oh,
and the fact that it was already one acquired by the department. So that's the reason I took that route.
so they would know.
Okay, and then so office, I'm sorry, man, I didn't know how much you wanted to discuss each one.
Commissioner Atwood.
Well, my understanding is that department is revenue neutral, right?
That's the goal.
Is there extra in there to where we could buy a truck? Or have we not gone down that rabbit hole yet?
It's been underwater for the past couple of years.
Yeah, the department has not made
Including
money
insurance.
the last couple of years because the economy has not been as, but this isn't, in my opinion, about whether you bring in money or not. This is about, do you need a new vehicle or do you need a different type of vehicle, that type of thing. But again, this is part of the bringing you guys on board so you kind of see what I'm working with, and then at some point you'll see a more final product in the future.
Typically, I think they usually get the Explorer police interceptor when it's done.
And I think we've got,
HHR before those.
and I think we've got 2 of those coming available.
The current vehicle, what year is it? It's an Highland.
15, he said, 15. 2015 or 16.
Okay, so, office furniture for building department staff. Yeah, that's when it's hard to quantify things. They've all got furniture. There's probably specialized furniture that he's talking about in this. Of course, anybody who's been in my office knows that my desk is from at least the 1970s, which they used to build really high-quality stuff back then. The IKEA stuff today just doesn't last. But that's one of those things where I'm sure I'll just be speaking with building official to determine what their needs are.
Adequate chairs, though.
Yeah,
Should be
considering how often your butt's in the chair, we do strive to have high-quality chairs.
Back, everything.
And they are all mismatched down there.
Yes, well, same thing, you know.
Well, and not,
Kinda goes downhill.
don't sit in this one right.
Well, heck, we got chairs up here where if you sit in it wrong, you're taking a tumble.
The ones that we replaced, these ones were how old? 40 years old or more? I mean, sometimes.
They were bad.
So, okay, any thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay, city clerk, unfortunately, she's been sick the last couple of days, so she's not here with us today. We have Tracy and Deanna taking minutes for us, which we appreciate. Main thing she indicated to me was an agenda management program. Apparently, this is something that a lot of the clerk's offices are moving towards. You know, the city's current setup is fine. It's nearly identical to what we use in my previous community. You know, this, it makes it easier. I think it does a better job of kind of archiving the past minutes. But what I'm looking for in this is I don't like kind of the new way, it seems like Adobe Acrobat led the way with, oh, you gotta pay us a maintenance fee every single year, right? I don't like that. The system we have currently is free. So the clerk is gonna have to convince me why we need to spend, you know, X number of dollars and a continuing fee each year after year to have this system. But it's an improvement, but at what cost? And then election equipment. The state mandates all sorts of things that we have to spend on elections, which is great. We want to have the best, fairest, and freest elections in the world. But again, those things can be very costly because they're proprietary. Clerk did an amazing job last year bringing in lots of grant money, so we appreciate that from her. And feel free to jump in. I'm just walking through as I get through. All right, Department of Public Works, they always have a ton of stuff because they do a ton of work for us. ADA entrance to the City Hall building. If you guys have used the front steps, not ideal. We're thinking about replacing all that concrete, adding in a ramp, and then making the doors either as double opening or a super wide one door. And then we're going to have one of those punch buttons that opens up the door automatically. And then we're going to have to work on the back entrance too, but we just want to make sure things are safe, ADA accessible for City Hall building. And again, from previous meetings, you guys know we're pushing off the Pine Street parking lot number 9 project for various reasons. So what we're thinking about doing is adding in some other projects this year, which, you know, the finance director and I have been just working our butts off trying to get that all situated. So thank you, Kelly. But the first one up that we're thinking about using to replace that project is a mill and fill overlay on Nepessing Street from M24 to, it says Calhoun here. I thought we talked about Mason, but you know, that section of asphalt's in a little rough shape. Not the worst road we have in the city, but it's highly visible. It's got lots of traffic, and obviously the downtown is the jewel of the city. Another project that I've asked them to work on is the brickwork in the downtown. You know, if you look at how the brickwork is, it's kind of sunken over the years, and now it's got a lip between where the brickwork is and the concrete curbing is. So you kind of have dirt and junk and green stuff kind of growing in there. So I've asked them to give me 2 quotes. One is either to replace that with stamped concrete, so it would be colored the same, but it would just be concrete that has a stamped pattern into it. Or we just kind of keep the same bricks, we just raise them up, so there's no longer that that kind of low area where things go in.
Trip hazards.
Yeah, it's a trip hazard to be sure, but it's also just aesthetically unattractive. Fuel monitoring system for the diesel tank, bringing the tank up to code. Replace 60 faded and non-reflective street sign.
Sorry.
Sorry to back
Thought you were
up a
driving
little
the truck.
bit into the Nepessing. How is the infrastructure underneath of Nepessing?
So in that section, we're not anticipating doing any underground infrastructure upgrades. So the reason that that project has been added is because all things considered, that's a fairly cheap project to complete. So I don't see the other projects that, again, we were literally talking about this about 15 minutes before the meeting about how we want to progress for this budget year. So in addition to the Nepessing Street, you guys have heard me talk about 1st Street and 2nd Street between Jackson and Lincoln. Now those are going to be massive infrastructure upgrades, and they're going to be costly. So we're talking about how are we going to pay for that? But the only thing we're seeing here is the Nipissing Street, which is gonna no infrastructure underground.
And then, if those new builds happen anytime soon, hopefully,
Which, the fire site and the,
the corner right here,
yeah, the new building, yep.
are they gonna have to cut into that for fire suppression?
That's a good question. I guess I hadn't thought about that. Is anybody from DPW? Yep.
I believe all their connections are gonna be out of the back of the building, because there's water main and sewer back there.
Is it adjacent to like the sidewalk in the rear, or is it up on Park Street?
It would be adjacent to the back of the building.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Slusher. It's hard to identify you without the head on.
Yeah, it's there.
All right, yeah, so we're also working with the DDA because, of course, there are some businesses on that side of the street that are interested in fire suppression. So we're working with the DDA to not only potentially put some fire suppression lead outs out there as part of that project, but also we're anticipating putting landscaping and dumpster enclosures back there. That's that project. We're talking about what we're doing instead. All right, so non-reflective and faded street signs. DPW replaced a bunch this past year. I've asked them to start replacing more of them. I think there's nothing more frustrating than trying to find the street you're looking for and you can't find it at night, right? Again, a lot of this is aesthetics, a lot of this is beautifying our city because people want to live in a city that they find attractive. All right, obtain a new sewer camera. We do quite a lot of our own sewer work. Be able to have our own camera instead of having to wait for somebody else and then pay for the privilege. The question there is going to be how much does that cost, because those can be costly depending on which model you get.
How old is their old one, and I'm sure that they've improved
Yeah.
over the years.
Mr. Slusher, do you have an answer to that? How old the current camera is, or do we have a current camera?
We have a current camera. It's very outdated. I'd say it's 15 years old. Every time we take it out, it fails us.
You cleaned it after you take it out too, right?
Yeah.
I thought it-
Hesitated.
I did think it was pretty
Not me
old, as I
personally.
remember, so. Okay, thank you.
What's the ballpark figure?
It's expensive. Do you have
Well, I
a
guess it'll be expensive.
ballpark?
For the camera,
Yeah.
I would say, I've seen them from 60 to 120.
Yeah, we got one in my previous community, it was 40,000, it was the bargain basement model, so. There's probably some grant money out there we can look at. All right. Similarly, they're looking at a new maintenance program for the wastewater treatment plant. Again, my issue there is I just don't love the idea of continuing to pay a fee on a year-to-year basis for what's essentially the same software. But I think the program's headed in the right direction. I think a better maintenance program pays dividends on the back end, so we don't have to replace so many very costly items out there. You'll see the Park Pine Street and Parking Lot Number 9 project. Again, you guys know from the last couple of weeks, but for the public, we're looking at pushing that project into spring of '26 and doing the First Street, Second Street, and Nipissing projects instead this year. Coring out and leveling 35 manholes to match existing street level grade. Again, as part of the Genesee Street project, you guys saw we're doing the concrete collars now, which are less likely to sink. And then we also worked with, was it county or state to do M24 to kind of core those out and raise those as well, which I appreciate every time I go south because you don't get that chunk in front of the McDonald's.
What about some of our other manhole covers,
Well, this might.
besides just Genesee Street?
Yeah, well, so I think they're gonna pick the 35 worst
Okay.
and do them. And I also changed the engineering standards for the city. We have a whole list of things when we do a road, here's what we expect you to do. And one of those engineering standards now is the concrete collar.
All right.
So in the future, this shouldn't be a problem, but to take care of the existing ones that are a problem, looks like we're anticipating doing about 35 this year, and we'll keep doing them until we, run out of money and time.
All right. Good plan.
And then, of course, everybody's favorite, crack sealing. Not attractive, but it really is the best course of action for extending the longevity of your roads.
You're talking about that little thin layer
No,
Or are you talking about the?
yeah, this is the
tar?
tar, the tar lines, yeah.
Okay. I don't mind that, it's the little blanket.
Like the microfilm, you know. Well, I mean, there's all,
Everybody thinks it's a new road, but it's not.
hey, you know what? If we can get it done for cheap, and everybody thinks we're, you know, doing all these great new roads, I'm happy for it.
They do it in like an hour.
All right. Wastewater treatment,
I have one
I'm
more
sorry.
question. I'm sorry that I have to go back, but you
Yeah,
passed it
I-
quickly.
quick.
The Neptune to Calhoun paving, when they do start the project on Park, or if Patrick's Building starts first, will the heavy equipment be coming down Nipissing to get there, or are they gonna come around Park? How will they get there? Because sometimes bringing those heavy cement
Yeah,
trucks and
no,
stuff
you're absolutely
can
right.
ruin a new road.
Yep, so before we do any project, we'll have a pre-con meeting, and we'll tell them this is what we expect you to do for your, you know, heavy truck movement. This is part of the reason we're pushing the parking lot number 9 project off, is we're hoping that he can get his build-out completed before we do that project, because we anticipate that they're going to be staging in that parking lot instead. And we don't want to have all the heavy truck, all the whatever going on that parking lot right after we fixed it. So, yeah, the anticipation is that they're going to be in that parking lot doing all their heavy material, or heavy work. But you're right, if we redo Nipissing, we're probably going to ask them to take an alternative route to get to that location.
I just wondered what route they would,
No,
I didn't
you-
know if our roads were.
No, you're absolutely right, we just haven't figured it out yet because we haven't had the pre-con meeting. Mr. Slusher, write that down. All right, wastewater treatment plant, as you guys know, we had our plant operator retire this year. We have a new guy in. He's doing a great job. He even put together a PowerPoint presentation for this, which I then had to feel like a bad guy and say, well, that's a little too much. But
No, I think
I thought it was wonderful.
great.
so, you know, there's a ton of stuff out there that he wants to work on. It's gonna be expensive, and it's gonna take a couple years. So I don't anticipate doing this all this year, but we'll try. And, you know, this is kind of boring stuff.
Has he got a prioritized list?
That'll be what we'll be working on. Ms. Lodensky, would you like to have the clicky do for you?
I would like to speak, yeah. Okay.
No, I'm gonna give you the clicky do so you can manage
Who is
this.
it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Jason Hall. Here,
Oh,
move it for me.
thank you.
I see.
Since I'm just paid to talk, not to click. All right, so a lot of this stuff, you know, I don't even understand what they're doing out there, but it works, so we trust him, he's great at his job. So electric gate, if you guys have visited the plant, you know, in your spare time, you see that the gate's just kind of left open all day, that's a security hazard. So we'd like to get that closed, unless you obviously have a click you do, it's my new favorite word for today. Maintenance program software, you saw that once before already with the DPW. Flex rake drum assembly, anybody here know what that is?
Oh, yeah, I have one at home.
Yeah, okay, me too. Triton aerator, oxidation ditch clean out, boiler replacement, influent gate valve replacement, I'm sure that's as horrible as it sounds. Anyways, all sorts of wonderful stuff. The one that I would point out specifically is the concrete stair replacement. Again, you guys visited the plant this past year, you saw how horrible those stairs were. Obviously, we want it safe for our staff, but, you know, something I'd like to do, and this is not part of this, is I'd like to bring in more like school kids, public. We want this stuff to be, I mean, they own it, it's theirs, it's owned by the public. So we'd like to be able to have tours in the future, and I just don't feel like it's safe right now with the stairs the way they're in their current condition.
That's a good idea, though.
And then sludge transfer pumps. Again, it's a big list, there's lots of stuff to be worked on, it's gonna be very expensive, and it's not all gonna accomplish this year.
I did review that nice power presentation. What I did see though is that a lot of our equipment is in either poor condition or really needs to be replaced and almost past its life expectancy. So it might be hard to choose between some of those projects. And maybe we can discuss that and, you know, how you're gonna do that.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot is needed to make sure that we keep our residents' businesses safe and that we have quality water. Priority.
This is
And
a
the
long
others,
list.
and the other.
This is a long list, and not just prioritize by what you think you might need, but what's gonna break first.
I know.
So,
Yeah, so governments are always working, behind. We don't have infinity money as much as we might like to sometimes, so, yeah, a lot of this budget stuff is prioritization.
Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, I just would like to maybe, in addition to that, just state, as things break, we do have money to fix them, right? So we're not just,
I hope.
just because we haven't planned to replace it this year, doesn't mean that we couldn't keep ourselves operational.
Speaking of which, I don't think we ever adopted a minimum fund balance policy. We've talked about it. It's something we've worked on, but I don't know if the council's passed it. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We do have to keep a safe emergency fund around to pay for emergencies. But we hope that it's never an emergency. We hope that we can get ahead of the things that we need to get ahead of. Fire department, the new parking lot and the driveway on the north side of the apparatus bay. Mike, I always like how you word things, much more eloquent than I word them. So this is adjacent to is it the 911 building? Yep.
Correct.
So the 911 building on the east side of it, there's a kind of grass area. I've already talked with county. County seems to be in favor of it. And then the driveway I don't think it was built for how heavy those trucks can be. Yep. So the new parking lot would be for our guys to be able to park back there during an emergency, because right now they're parking basically on the driveway, which, is just a bad idea all around. So just got to get with county. I want to make sure you guys are okay with it tonight, and then probably talk to Mr. Sanzo tomorrow. 2-year replacement program for fire hoses and associated connectors and sprayers. That's not the words you used, right? That was my wording? Yeah, I'm sure you had much prettier words for those. Another big one that we're really trying to do is hire an additional full-time fire officer. We're always trying to make sure that we have succession planning set up, and I think Mike would tell you that daytime operations are difficult because the paid call service that we have, people have their day jobs. So we're trying to get somebody on our payroll that we know will be there. So again, we're working on it.
Can I ask on that one, is that something you post, since we do have some volunteer firefighters, would they be first in line? Would you post that?
I don't know the exact, is it union rules about how we have to do things like that, but we've got some people in mind already.
Yeah, I just wonder if you post it like you do for the city.
Yeah, I don't know, Mike, are we obligated to post that externally?
Or
You know?
internally,
No, the intent would be, obviously, there is some contractual language we would have to follow, but then it would be an internal posting. Correct.
Refresh me, how many full-time fire do we have?
Mike, how many full-time do we have right now? 3?
Yes, we have myself, the fire marshal, and fire inspector.
and how many on your roster, volunteer or paid on call?
We have about 32 to 33, including full-time staff.
And are they required, Mike, to have a certain percentage of time that they answer the call in order to stay on that roster?
Yes, it's a balancing act to say they do have minimums. And what the paid call service is encountering right now is, would you rather have that person show up once a month or not show up at all? And then we have the other issue was, okay, you show up once a month, how proficient are you? And not to mention the other training obligations that were required to mandate by NIOSHA and the state.
Okay, looks like we're gonna try to add 2 new paid call firefighters, which includes training costs, and then potentially adding EMS first responder licensing. Okay,
Can I ask more about the EMS first responder licensing?
please do.
I'm wondering why we are doing that if we have 2 2 ambulance services in the city that service us. This feels like a huge liability.
Well, I don't know about what.
Because there's medical malpractice, so who would cover that?
Okay, so I'm not sure it's liability, but I have similar questions. Again, keeping in mind, this has not been gone through by
Yeah, I just
management.
wondered about that.
So no, you're absolutely right. This is one of those things where, sorry, Mike, to put you on blast here, but one of those things where I would ask that same exact question. We already have a paid call service. The citizens are already paying a millage. What does this add? And what is it gonna cost?
Right.
because, I'm never opposed to increased skill set, better ability to respond, that kind of thing, but are we doubling up the service, et cetera, et cetera? So you're asking the right questions.
I'm sure that EMS has a lot of data for us, and I do know that some of our neighboring townships have gone this route as well. And
the
I
more
don't know if you're
rural
aware that one of our ambulance services, if they haven't already, I believe them already pulled out of Superior County.
I heard they weren't, but I heard they weren't, so that's obviously
Not
conflicting
EMS.
information.
Madam Mayor, or Mayor Womack, I can expand a little bit if you like. or
Please
not.
do.
First, it is in flux if that company's gonna pull out or not. The latest data we have is that they are not, but they have not notified Met Control that they are not. Secondly, we're not looking to do what anyone else does in the county. We are not looking to transport. We are not looking to run on medicals from the 911 center. Frankly, what we want to be prepared for is a mass casualty incident at a school, church, or any one of our downtown events. Right now, on your best day, you have 8 ambulances available countywide. That means they're in service. That means they're not available to take 911 calls. That means they're on duty. As Oxford has proven, if Oakland County can become overwhelmed with a mass casualty incident, Lapeer County will easily be overwhelmed. What we want to be able to do is be able to actually help out in those instances. So if there is a mass casualty event on the numerous times we shut down downtown, that we're there to help. It's not just an act of violence. I want everyone to remember that in our community, anybody can have a medical emergency and plow through a wooden barricade. That's one thing that is very important because, again, if you do have that emergency, there will be nobody coming to help. Like I said, if you have very often, we go down to 1 to 2 ambulances at a time. And again, we're not looking to run the medicals like anyone else does in the county. We wouldn't be, there would be no criteria for us to be dispatched. It would basically be, hey, if the worst case scenario happened, we would be in a position to assist during that time.
Sounds like something that we should have. Thank you.
All right, so Finance Department, Ms. Hannah, I always appreciate when I get the department says, no, I'm not requesting any CIP items this year. I doubly appreciate all the incredible work you do in finding the money for all the other CIP items that are being asked of us.
I'm working for all the departments.
Great.
Housing Department, so the first one's kind of the city manager asking the Housing Department to put this on her agenda, so Denise, I appreciate that. So the 18 Nepsing property, and we're hoping to create a public space at that 18 Nepsing property if and when it gets demolished. The current holdup right now is, it's a contaminated space. We've got quotes for what the demolition's likely to cost. It's substantial. And then, we don't want to just have an empty eyesore, empty space in our downtown. So what do we do with that space next? That end of town doesn't get a lot of foot traffic. There's no, public reason to be there. So what we've talked about is potentially demolishing the building and putting up a street level deck which would oversee the river there. But this is largely going to be dependent on the kind of grant money we're able to obtain. Because while I think it's an incredible project, and I think would be kind of transformative for that end of town, it's a big ask. So more to come, I guess, on that. And then also,
I have a question about that, sorry. How will that affect the other businesses there? For instance, Fat Boys, do they have an exterior wall between where you're gonna tear down, or are they gonna have to worry about having an exterior wall there because
yep,
they're
so
attached?
from what I understand with the 0 lot lines that are out there, that there's 2 kind of exterior walls that are like this. So yes, their wall would become exposed, but I guess I'd have to talk to the attorneys. I'm not sure there's any liability for the city to withdraw our wall, because their building should be able to stand on its own, right? The structural integrity of their building should be their concern. Now, we'll work with all parties. We're gonna have all sorts of engineers involved in this, so we're gonna do everything that's right. Now, there may be some aesthetic issues there, If we remove our wall that's hiding their wall, and all of a sudden their wall's unpainted and unattractive, maybe we'll have to work with them on that issue. But, I'm trying to put together a public space for the public to be able to enjoy the river.
Commissioner Brady?
Manager Womack, are you familiar with the historical significance of that site?
The 18 Nepsison property?
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Alvin Hart came down the Flint River, right where it splits off to Farmers Creek, and said, oh, okay, that's where I'm gonna plot, at least originally,
So,
that end of town.
I'm familiar with the fact that the property was a former dry cleaner
Yeah.
and caused all sorts of pollution.
You said there was no good reason to go down there, and I just want you to know Alvin Hart begs to differ.
So, the building is a blight and an eyesore on the
Yeah,
county.
it is.
And when I visit that site, and I overlook the river and the field that's there, I think that's one of the prettiest sites in town.
That's what he said.
When you can
Word
see,
of
mouth.
when you can see the field, it's
Could you
flooded
put some
most of
that
the time.
History information there on.
And we'll get grants to do that too, but that's the point, is I want to draw people
All right.
outside of town. And apparently I could have been a founder up here,
Yeah.
because, I have a high.
Well, there was another guy too, but
Okay, well.
that's one.
No, but didn't we walk down and see the marker for the first settlement, or the first camping site, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's basically kitty corner from that.
Okay.
One more question. Can we please get a bid? I think we need to do that for the public. We need to have a good bid, somebody that wants to restore. I want somebody to give us a bid that says, I can restore this for this amount of money, it will be a great deal. And then it can be compared to tear down. Because I don't want to be the commission that just tears everything down, because we think it's not of use. So if we had that for the public and for my heart, because I'm a total restoration person, restores antiques, and I do care about the history of our community. So can we get a bid of somebody that says, that's what I do for a living, Casey Carpenter? Can we have somebody go down and give us a good bid on that? Not somebody that wants to tear it down. I want somebody that wants to restore it, give us a bid. It's just so that we have a comparison to show people.
So, we talked about this a year ago. And the direction I got from the commission at that time was they wanted us to move towards demolition and creation of a public space.
Was that the other commission? Was that past
The commission that I was working for gave me that direction.
Right, but we have a new commission now.
I have not received any alternative votes by this commission.
I don't know that we voted on it.
Okay.
So I'm just asking for that. I just think that's a fair thing to put out to the public, both bids, like, this is how much it's gonna cost for sure.
Are you
to-
making a motion?
No, I'm just saying, it's a suggestion.
You should make a motion if you want to make a suggestion.
Well,
There's, we're able to, I would make a motion that we get both bids. Then,
Support.
before we tear it down.
Okay.
And somebody that is in that business of restoration.
Okay, motion, wait, you've made a motion now.
Okay.
It's been, so Commissioner Petrie made a motion and Commissioner Brady has supported it. Is there discussion on this motion
Well,
to get two bids?
the first problem is that this is kind of a workshop session. I don't think anybody anticipated that we take
The
action.
motion was made.
I'm just telling you from an optics point of view. Ms. Hildensky, you're making motions for it, but do you have a
Yeah,
comment?
Madam Mayor, can I just say, just a comment? Because I went through the file and kind of read through the history and what has been done. Eagle was there, removed a contamination tank, there's a couple more there, took stuff out, filled them with water. They did vapor pins and monitoring wells, and they were still finding some contamination before they said, we've spent enough, City of Lapeer, it's on you. So before Mike and I even got talking, I just called the people from Eagle, because I'm like, what should we do going forward? And of course, they're not gonna answer you specifically. However, if we do decide to renovate, there will be a lot more, because that contamination now has to be redetermined where it's at now, which could be very costly, because they said they abandoned the monitoring wells, they'll have to redo those. So that scenario is kind of why we said that could be a bigger issue, because now you're talking drinking water could be an issue, and the open air, within a enclosed space could be an issue for health and safety. So the city, that's why we kind of shifted gears and said, if we have an open air, and even Eagle said with an open air scenario, you possibly don't even have to do any of that with no drinking water and, you know, fresh air. So that would be my only suggestion of if we do go with renovation, there will be a lot more cost probably involved.
There's some other issues too, Madam Mayor, if I could. And we're not to relitigate the point. I understand it's a new commission and you guys want to take a second look at some of these things, but, you know, in addition, okay, so let's, first of all, it doesn't matter if one costs $1 more than the other one. We're not doing it based on the cost necessarily. We're also talking about future use. To put in the contamination monitoring and the mitigation systems, there's gonna be a substantial ongoing cost to reuse the building because of contamination. But also, there's no parking at this location. And it's already kind of a very slow foot traffic area part of the city. I think you'd have a very difficult time getting anybody to pay any rent that would make up for the cost of the renovation. That's actually one of the major drivers why we talked about making this public space. We floated a lot of ideas. We've talked about this a lot. You know, the DDA is interested. They couldn't pay, the rent. I guess you could seek out some kind of non-customer-based office space. But we also have other spaces in town that are not filled. It just didn't make sense for us. But I mean, we're happy to do the work the council wants to see. We talk about these issues at length.
All right, motion is start on the floor.
You
You want them to withdraw it?
You want to put it on the next agenda?
Well, I guess at the very least, I'd appreciate an opportunity to kind of send you, I mean, I've thought I've sent this information to you guys in the past, but send the information back to you so this.
March of '24, I just pulled up all the emails.
Yeah, have this conversation a little bit better briefed than at a workshop session. I guess that'd be my preference.
I withdraw my support.
So I'll
Okay.
withdraw, but can we have it on the next agenda
Yeah.
just for more discussion?
Support was
You know,
withdrawn.
just-
Yeah, as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Support was
Next
withdrawn
agenda.
from Commissioner Petrie and support was, second support was withdrawn from Commissioner Brady.
All right, 405 Elm, new single family possible duplex, municipal density. This is LNI.
Lapeer Neighborhoods.
Okay. And they're gonna try to get a duplex built at that location.
Not necessarily. Right now, we have, LNI owns the property. They would like to retain it to build eventually, but right now, with building materials and what things cost, we just can't possibly build and sell with a profit, any kind of profit. The last home we built at 371 Turl was break even, and we didn't get anything from the property. So, that was pretty much donated by Lapeer Neighborhoods Inc. So this is a similar situation except worse. And so, we can hold on to the property, and grants do come and go, but we haven't found any that will, take care of this gap between the two. L&I has very limited funds, so it would be something that the city would have to put forth funds and possibly not sell, at the price to make up for those funds. So I didn't even really put it on as meaning to have it in the CIP this year, but something to bring up for future, that we hold on to it. Lapeer Neighborhoods, if we got the right price for it, could sell it to somebody who wanted to build. We've talked to a few builders that are not interested at the time. So we haven't actually put it up for sale either, just kind of holding on to it to see if we can use it in the next couple of years, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Can I ask a question about that, Denise? Are there any other rentals in that, where that lot is?
There are, most of the homes there are single family though. We would have to get a variance to do a duplex there because it's residential single family, so it would be.
Okay, Parks and Rec and Cemetery, add a pavilion at the community center. Mr. Church, this is volleyball courts, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, talking about putting a pavilion in the southern portion of the volleyball courts. There's 2 underutilized courts currently. We thought that'd be a good location adjacent to the new outdoor space out there that's heavily used. We could rent it out. That could also be a safe space shelter for our summer day camp program.
and supportive of the pickleball courts that are there too, right?
Right.
The community center boilers, that sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun, probably expensive too. Do they have to remove the roof to do that,
Hopefully not.
or just a couple walls?
Hopefully not.
Begin replacing downtown trash receptacles with city standards. This is probably one of those things where we're gonna have to kind of get some opinions about how we wanna do it. But I'm guessing we're gonna try to phase in a newer, higher quality standard for garbage cans.
Yeah, right now, there's probably, you're lucky if one trash can matches another. There's a lot of mismatch down there, so.
Okay. Artwork to the M24 tunnel. Is the M24 tunnel done and ready?
It will be eventually, but the plan is to have a mural painted on it, kind of similar to what was done at Oakdale Trails. It's a much larger tunnel compared to that, but it would look very nice and fit it perfectly down there.
Have we
And
officially?
kind of help deter the graffiti.
So if we officially change the name of that project from the tunnel to nowhere to the tunnel to somewhere?
I think it's time.
It's time, some more time.
Well, that's a great movie. Yeah, my mom loves that movie. All right, install a cupola on the roof of the Oakdale Pavilion.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, question for Rodney. Do we have a write-up or a drawing on how we, if there was a plan to connect the trails coming out of Oakdale to the trail to somewhere, or the bridge to somewhere?
No, this project's been in the works since for a long time. 2015, I believe, is when we started. And I remember I was on that initial walk from the Oakdale Trails to the tunnel, and it financially didn't make sense because it's very wet back there. It required a lot of different boardwalks and whatnot. So at that time, we kind of shifted to this ramp switchback trail, which still serves its purpose because it gets you safely across 24 without having to go to the corner. And it would also connect on the eastern side of the trail, or the tunnel, into Crampton Park, which isn't paved currently. So.
And we don't own, is there portions of that properties that we don't own?
Correct. Kohl's, Home Depot, owns quite a
Most
bit.
of it. Close on Depot.
Commissioner Brady?
This, I mean, obviously we gotta get the tunnel done first, but I would highly recommend that we think about looking at the sidewalk from the store parking lot across to the corner.
Which parking lot?
From like the Big Lots parking lot, or if it is still the Big Lots parking lot, who knows?
Joann's too.
Yeah, so you can ride from the trails, basically to my house, sorry to, use landmarks that I'm familiar with. And then you kind of get stopped there, but if eventually we get down the road a little farther with the 10-foot asphalt trail, you do kind of get stopped after you get through the big parking lot, the Planet Fitness parking lot. It gets very narrow, very bumpy. That would be a good connection. We have nice sidewalk on the north side of the street, and maybe the south side of the street could use some attention. And then I would just also encourage that we're paying a lot of attention to where the tunnel to somewhere goes and try to connect it to downtown. So somewhere through the park, back up to this way.
Sounds like a good briefing on kind of what the plans are there. Let's see. Build a new single track loop, 1.25 miles on the Oakdale Trail, and potentially add an additional disc golf course on the Oakdale property.
I have a question on that.
Sorry, this is not public comment time. So Oakdale property, is it Oakdale, or are we talking about the area in front of Chatfield?
That could be both.
Okay, because we talked about that as being an alternative location. Okay. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay. All right, police department, the flock camera system. So this is basically license plate readers that would be posted at the entrances and exits to the city. Chief Howell can speak more intelligently about it, but it's a great system for knowing where stolen cars are, and if we have a crime committed, we can have a good idea of who's getting onto and off the I-69 at that moment in time. So it can kind of keep us in the loop about what cars are near crimes as they occur. And I believe we're discussing with other jurisdictions in Lapeer. I mean, we sure would like to be the first ones in, but I think this is something that's going to be Lapeer-wide in the near future. New police badges. We're going to have to talk about how many and how much that's going to cost. Lobby bullet-resistant glass and ballistic board. I think, Jeremy, we talked about that. We're just down to ballistic board at this point.
Correct.
And that's for the front lobby, just in case somebody wants to come in and shoot up the place, make sure that the front end staff has a safe place to be, to hide. Body.
Commissioner Atwood has a question.
Haven't they come up with a film that goes over top of the glass? So when it's shot, it doesn't shatter, it's hard to break through. So is that less or more cost effective?
So, well, it would be cost effective, but what we discovered, we brought some, since I completed the CIP, we brought some additional people in to look at the glass that we currently have. They deemed it as being bullet resistant because we thought we might have to upgrade it. They were, and they could have tried to sell us a product and they did, and they said, no, you're good, that's a good bullet resistant glass that you already have. So what we're looking to do is put a plate underneath the window, so if somebody does come in and approach, whoever's up front, police clerk, anybody walking by can get down and they're not putting rounds through the wall. So we're actually taking that out of the CIP entirely, because I think I have enough in my budget now that we can afford the ballistic board without any additional cost for the 25-26 fiscal year.
All right, body armor replacement, that's on a fixed cycle of some kind?
Yeah, every 5 years. Yeah.
And then implementation of the community partnership program. You want to talk about that first?
Yeah, so, and I've been talking about this over the last year. Once we got this accreditation done, we started getting some time to kind of evaluate where we were after putting a lot of time and effort into that. We are going to start really ramping this up in February. We've already contacted some of the churches in our community to start doing some ALIS training and doing some building security stuff. And really what we're going to do is we're going to hit it on all pillars. We're going to hit it with the business districts. We're going to hit it with our rental owners and their properties and the schools. So a lot of it is environmental by design, making their buildings more secure, in an attempt to reduce crime, being more proactive. A lot of it's educational based. So it's a program that we're excited about. It's going to be really hands-on with our guys and our local community members. So we're looking for it just to be a foundation of our department moving forward.
Okay, so that is the current request from the department heads for CIP items and major budget items for the upcoming year. As you guys know, there's going to be a flurry of activity with department heads, finance director, and myself over the next couple weeks and months to kind of find the funding for all this stuff, tie it all together, and bring it back to you guys with a shiny bow on top. Then we'll have some budget meetings coming up. When's the budget calendar looking? April-ish time for the council to get back involved?
Yes.
April-ish time. So any more thoughts, questions, concerns about what's been presented, or anything that you want the staff to look into for potential addition to the CIPs?
Seeing no hands, I think we can move on.
All right, you guys need a real quick break, or you want me to keep going? Okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
There might be some folks that are done sitting through our meeting, I'm not sure.
It's not rude to get up and leave if you guys want to. We're
Need
not offended by it.
please do so, you won't offend us.
Thank you for coming.
All right, now I'm offending everybody. Just kidding.
Let me go change the slide here. Jeff, you sure you're not done? Pardon? Sure you're not done? Don't need to go?
April 24th and 28th are the budget workshop dates.
So if I get on that side of the road.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
April 24th and 28th,
Thank you.
budget workshop.
I smell like chocolate.
April 24th through 28th.
I'll let you know.
Let's pick.
I want to, Jeff was, or Josh was, apparently Marlene is, but I was just gonna say that if any of the department heads want or need to leave this evening, I think you can.
Yeah, I think
We're gonna be discussing special assessments. Maybe you need to stay, Kelly.
I was thinking the same thing, as much as I would like to take you up on your flag offer. I will stay.
We love having you here. Thank you for being here. But enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Thanks
I'm
for.
just gonna get more water. I will stay.
Okay.
That's your excuse. We'll see you. discussion we'll ever have, I'm sure.
Okay?
Special assessment policy. You guys have heard it from me, you've seen the policy, it's not very in-depth. At minimum, I think we need to take a whack at it, just to rewrite it for ease of reading purposes and understanding, because there's certain things that need to be done with these policies that's not written down in this policy, which I don't like. But what I need to hear from you guys today is, we've got a number of road projects that are coming up, which I think is exactly what you guys want. I think you want us fixing the roads, right?
Yes.
So we put together, Ms. Hannah and the DPW department and I, along with Row Engineering, have put together an aggressive plan to fix the roads in the community. Problem, or existence as it may be, is that we have this policy from at least 1989. I've seen it listed as before that as well, but at least from 1989, we've got this policy in place that indicates that for road improvement projects, especially existing road projects, we're obligated to assess a special assessment against the adjoining property owners. Now, prior to this commission, with the old commission, we had the Andrew Rivers Estates. You'll see the draft costs starting at page 43 of your PDF on that. That's about a 10-year special assessment at about $3,600 per property. So you're looking at about $360 per property that would have been especially assessed for us to do that project, which at that time, we had some very concerned citizens here in this room telling us what they thought of that special assessment policy. So if we're going to be doing Park Street and Pine Street and Nepessing Street and First Street and Second Street, from my reading and understanding of the special assessment policy, we're obligated to assess a 30% for a local street of the value of the road project. Now, when we talk about a $800 million project, a lot of that's going to be water, a lot of that's going to be sewer. So roads is only going to be a portion of that. But still, if you're talking about as you see on the Andrew Rivers Estate, we're talking about a $300,000 road project, divided by X number of properties, you're still looking at $300+ per year. Yes, sir.
Does that include sidewalk? Is it the package, or?
So sidewalks are under city law considered to be part of a road. I know it's weird, but that's how it's written. So yes, if the sidewalks were to be replaced, it's something that could be specially assessed.
Okay.
Now, for the First Street and Second Street, we anticipate that we would be replacing the sidewalks, because the problem on those two streets is we've got really bad foundation underneath the road, and then the sidewalks are so degraded and the driveways are degraded that they kind of pool water onto the road, which leads to their very fast and horrible degradation. So we would anticipate that we would add sidewalks to those projects. Now, for this policy, we would be assessing them for the cost of the road surface and the sidewalks. So, we need direction from the new commission about how you guys want us to deal with this. We're obligated to follow it until such time as you tell us we either are not going to do it moving forward, we're going to change the policy, or offer some kind of modification. So I need discussion on that, and then we'll bring it back to you guys for, adoption and approval.
Comments, Commissioner Brady?
Looking at the, I guess it would be option 2, where option 1 is keep the policy as is, and option 3 is, I guess, abandon the special assessments. So I like a lot of what's in option 2, and I think that kind of picking and choosing some of the best of those makes sense to me, to add to the policy or to modify the policy. I guess if we want to go to them specifically, if it makes more sense to go one at a time.
Sure, but just as a comment on the front end, which is, anytime you write a policy of any kind, whether it's this one or another one, inevitably someone's going to, I don't want to use the word, but it doesn't always apply equally to everybody or fairly to everybody. So oftentimes when you write a policy, I always like to have what I'll call a release valve, something that gives you the authority to say, you know what, yeah, you're really getting hosed and we're not going to apply it. With the Andrew Rivers Estate, one of the problems we had there was we had a couple people with corner lots, and they ended up having street frontage on 2 roads. And the policy, as I understood it at the time, was, well, they got hit with 2 special assessments. I don't want somebody paying $7,000 because they just happen to have a corner lot. So what I decided at that time was that we were only gonna hit corner lots with 1 special assessment, because I thought that was fair. So yeah, the question is, whether it's these options or some other options, how do we make this policy more fair to the average person? And do we add some kind of release valve that gives us the ability to say, you know what, you're right, you shouldn't be paying 2 assessments, or whatever.
Were there some property owners in that particular sub that had 2 lots? Like one?
I don't know if they had two lots, or do you mean like double wide lots?
I saw some
There was
names
a
doubled
couple
up. There was a couple that were like
corners.
double names. I didn't know if those were the corners or people had, because if you had 2 lots.
Yeah, so
then you kinda do.
that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Now, of course, what I'd suggest if you have 2 lots that are adjacent to each other is combine them. Because the only real good reason for keeping 2 lots is that you anticipate selling one of them. Yeah. If you're using both your lots as your property, you probably want to combine them. But again, I believe in fairness. I want people to be treated fairly, and I understand that these are not popular, but it's something legal we can do. It's written into our ordinances, and we have a policy on it. So I guess.
My concern, since this has been going on since '89, is for all the other roads that we have done. And our residents have paid. I'm not one of them. So I'm not speaking for myself, but there are several. And so going from having to have them pay some to absolutely none frightens me. I might like to see something in between.
I agree.
Bishop Swindell.
Our 30% and 15% is extremely conservative compared to a lot of communities. Our sidewalks need an overhaul. The 30 grand we're throwing at it a year is not getting the job done. There's a lot of really bad sidewalks. It is the responsibility of the homeowner. It's the responsibility of the homeowner to clear your lot. You pay a premium for a corner lot. You pay that premium knowing that you're responsible for the sidewalks on the corner lot. You have to either pay someone or do twice as much sidewalk. It's a premium. You pay for it. But we have, it is a conservative policy compared to some. I mean, I've lived places where you pay it at all. So, it's a very conservative policy as far as that goes. But we haven't been doing as many projects to shy away from it because it's not popular and it's not the sexy fun things like the parks and the other fun projects. So we've been shying away, but we need to figure this out quickly and we need to start, whatever it is, doing it. Because people don't like it when you come and say, you have until this date to replace your sidewalk or we're gonna replace it and just go ahead and charge you for it. Otherwise, you know, when we're doing the road and we do the sidewalk, you're only paying a small portion of it. That would be one way to get some of the sidewalks fixed, because there's a lot that are really bad. We need to do something about it, but this 30% is not, a lot are 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. 30% is really small of a percentage to ask people of the special assessment. That's because we have city tax and a bigger budget.
True.
If I could just add just a small thing, because you're absolutely right. Comparatively, this is a conservative special assessment. Now, my previous community, we had no special assessment. We also didn't do any roads. And the people complained about how bad the roads were. But one thing I would comment on, I guess contrary, because I can defend you and speak against you as well, is that costs for road reconstruction, concrete, asphalt has just gone through the roof dramatically since COVID. So, is 15 or 30% fair? Yes, I think in a normal economy that's absolutely fair. But it is a big ask to say to our citizens, our constituents, to say, look, the cost went through the roof and you're going to be responsible for paying that. It's a tough call. There is no real good answer here.
Well,
But we do need an answer because we got projects that are backing up.
Maybe something else to consider is if we determine that a particular area needs to be done, that, or subdivision, or wherever it may be, that we could maybe send out a letter to those residents asking whether they would like that done or not. And if over 50+% say yes, well, then we know what they really want. It's not like you're sending a letter to the whole city of Lapeer, but just, that would be prior to the needs, special needs meeting. Just a thought there.
Well, is that under the option 2?
Looks like letter F to me.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the problem. We've already chosen Park and Pine Street. That's a huge part of our
Yeah,
city.
I understand that.
You know, do we say to those people, well, you did a decision and we're just not gonna do it if you don't go along with it?
Well, this policy hasn't been, there's no policy that's been, no new policy that's been adopted.
Sure.
And those projects are already in the works.
I guess the way F to me reads is, somebody like Andrew Rivers Estate, or I forget the other one, we have a second neighborhood that's in a similar situation. The roads are in okay shape, they're not great. They did fail to put the top asphalt coat on there. But we went in, we fixed the problem, we put some patches in, and so at this point, I don't know if it's strictly necessary. The question then would become, if we have citizens complaining to us, hey, we want our road fixed, that's when we go under the
And ask
ordinance
them.
and ask them.
That's fine.
Because you're right, we don't want one person to drive the
Dictating.
costs for everybody else.
Right.
At the same time, if it is a road that is heavily traveled, if the people that don't live there don't want to do it because they don't want to pay, but the city still needs the road done for the traffic that it gets, we're not going to put the project off more years if it's something that needs to be done and we don't want. I mean, there's no way, if the homeowners at Park and Pine say, no way, that still needs done. The infrastructure still needs done, the road still needs done, the parking lot still needs done. We still need to do it because of those are heavily traveled roads. If we start asking people, well, if half of you don't want it, then we'll just go ahead and leave it falling apart, it's
I think
fine.
what I was referring to was more like probably the subdivisions, but certainly it can have a lot of good thought on that. Commissioner Brady?
Yeah, I'm following along with that same thought, and I'm looking at letter D, and this differentiation between through roads and not through roads. I liked that one. That was one that I had kind of said, Pine, Park, obviously Park is, a big, anybody who comes downtown, especially once it's new and redone, it's gonna be used by so many more people.
And in the right direction.
Both directions.
They drive both directions on it now.
Like with mine, when we redid West Genesee, I wasn't specially assessed.
Because of grants.
Because of grants. So, when you look in combination with that, I like that B and D kind of in a combination where whatever we can get grants to take off of, the people that are gonna be living on Park Street are basically, they're gonna get the new road that everybody gets and they're gonna get a sidewalk. So they're not, I don't even like my driveway, right? I like my old driveway better than I like my current driveway. So if you were to ask me to pay for it, I might be one of those people in the chair saying, why do I have to pay for this? This wasn't necessarily a design improvement for me.
I
But
get you completely.
but if the grant money can go towards that specifically first, I think the combination is good.
Madam Mayor. So any grants we do get come straight off the special assessment amount first before anything else?
Well, we have
Is that what you mean?
there's like water grants that are gonna have to do,
Well, water goes to the water pipe, not to the road.
right. So every project's gonna be split up, so I don't know, you can't say every grant, but.
And what happens if we don't get a grant? are the citizens gonna stand here and say, well, I don't want you doing the project until you get a grant that covers my portion?
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of a different conversation, maybe one that we were starting that we didn't completely wrap up, but I don't like that option of the veto of one little neighborhood. And then again, it's whether it's a neighborhood or a.
Right.
or a street.
Well, and it becomes a whole nother thing, because in Andrew River Estates, they fixed big holes, but those storm sewers are still this high off, and they're still holding water. So eventually, that road is gonna fail. It's already lasted longer than it's supposed to, even though that it's holding water and it's not in terrible shape. But eventually, that will fail, and then you have to have curb too, and it gets to be a more expensive project. The homeowners say, let's hold it off because we don't need it. Well, in 10 years, it's gonna cost 4 times as much because you need way more. Now you need sidewalks, now you need curb, now you need, that's why we're elected, is to make those plans for them.
So,
To keep costs down, hopefully.
Right.
I don't know if it made it into the policy here, but so under the ordinance, you can basically poll the property owners in a democratic vote to see if they're interested in specially assessing themselves to do the work that you've identified. Something you could do is carrot and stick approach, which is if you guys approach a city with a request to do this, we'll reduce the amount that you have to pay. So instead of, I forget the numbers, 15%, now it's 10% or something like that. So that's an option for a carrot of, look, we don't want to do it, but if we do it now instead of 10 years from now, it's going to cost less. But again, this is one of those things where there's so many caveats and addendums, and it's like, you need a policy that can be enforced too. If we end up having every, caveat, then nobody's gonna pay for anything, and it's just gonna be on the city.
So we want to keep it simple. Commissioner Petrie.
Can I just say that I think that the average citizen thinks that's why they're paying income tax here and property tax, they're like, that covers all of that. And so I think we need to do better at communicating when we have to do something like this, how this happens. Because so many people think, well, that's why we voted for the marijuana, that we're gonna have extra money to pay for our roads and everything, and people are thinking, what do I pay all this tax for? So I think we need to just communicate to them better, and like you said, if it's a neighborhood, they get assessed, and if it's another street that more people use, they don't get assessed. How can that appear fair?
Well, I also think that a lot of people, including myself, a long time ago, have no clue what it costs for a road, which
How
is,
much a mile, Josh?
I mean, geez, 300,000
It's over
does
now.
Yeah.
a block or two,
Right.
so.
Right, that's why I'm saying we gotta figure out a better communication so that we don't look like, we don't care how much you pay in taxes, and then we're gonna add that on top of it. I just think that we need to communicate why, to whom, and what's fair and what's not fair. Because I'm thinking on Park Street, we have a lot of commercial, well, several commercial, a couple of single-family residents, but mostly are rentals. Some of them don't have driveways. So I'm sure some of them are thinking, well, why would I be assessed for a city street?
Well, rentals would not be, it's the owner who would be
Well,
assessed.
right, I know that, but they still,
It differentiates between residentially zoned and industrial and commercially zoned.
right.
So like, a lot of those side streets would be B2,
Well,
or,
so without reading it, zone. So this is one of those issues that I have with this policy as written. Do we want to especially assess them based on the zoning or the use? And I'd have to talk to some attorneys about whether that's legal or not, but you've got some intermixed areas in this community where, okay, so you have a residential property and it's an industrial zone. Do we want them paying 100% of the cost? No, that's crazy. So when it says zoned, do we really mean that, or do we mean the use of the property? Yeah.
How many current projects that run under this policy are still being paid on? Do we know that? 3?
Yes, and I actually was just looking, their annual installments are approximately $500 a year.
How much longer do they have to go on?
They're almost done. They've got maybe a year or two more years.
Kelly, did you say 500 a year?
They're approximately 500 a year. Yeah, one that I just looked at, their installment was $548. And then I'm looking at another one that's, and these are DeMille Street improvements, sorry, which they're commercial. So there's a taxpayer that the installment's $344, and then someone else is $295. So I'm sure because it's commercial, it's not, like a neighborhood is usually one RU, the equivalent of one residential unit. Commercial is usually done a little bit different when it comes to special assessments.
There's also, and you bring up a good point, I don't think it's written into this policy at all how we make that determination. Because there's multiple different ways you could make that determination. One is per property, you pay one special assessment. Another one is a per foot basis. If you've got for a frontage that's 600 feet long, you're paying a substantially higher rate than somebody who's got 50 feet. Or it could be how many lot frontages do you have on the road being specially assessed. So if you're a corner lot, you're paying 2 versus 1. I don't think that's clear on the policy.
It is not.
No.
It's been done both ways.
So-
When they redid Genesee the first time and assessed them, it was by the foot.
So there's another issue, which, again, I'm not expecting you guys to have all the answers tonight. This is just one of those things where it needs to be addressed, it needs to be addressed soon, and I want to know what direction you guys are leaning, because I need to be able to bring back something to you for you guys to approve, and then we need to be able to stand behind it when we go to the public and say, this is how we are doing roads in this community. It's how it's been done for, 25 plus 11 years.
Can I ask a question, or just an observation?
Madam Mayor?
Just as a token public, I've always been curious and I'm not even sure if it's talking budget, if their revenue streams that you have established, so maybe like the solar array fields, that lease agreement, isn't that like about $250,000 or?
330-ish, a couple of years.
I mean, can that just, why can't you earmark that for local roads? I don't know where that goes, or the marijuana money. I mean, tell the public, every dollar is gonna go to the local roads.
Yeah, so we've talked about that. The joke that I like to tell is, we'll just pay it with marijuana money, right? Everybody thinks that marijuana is $10 bajillion per year and it pays for everything, right?
No, but it might add up, I mean, if you.
So, something we've talked about
You have to go
internally.
3 to 10 years. Anything done.
So, we certainly could allocate that money, but, the decision we made, 18 months ago, when I first started, was we're not going to have a special fund for the marijuana, because with the previous council, that was turning into, pump track, this, that.
What about that solar array money though?
Well, yeah, all sorts of different streams we could tap into, but currently, we're looking at it holistically, the whole picture. One of the things that we had listed in here was special assessment, not special assessments, a road millage. So, we could ask the citizens, I mean, if the roads are truly a concern of the public, maybe we go to the public and say, hey, look, we'll get a road millage passed, and then we'll match that money with marijuana money, or whatever. So we're basically getting double the money, and if we do that, now we can eliminate special assessments on those projects, because we'll treat it like a grant money, right? So there's all sorts of different options we have.
Commissioner Brady.
I don't know if you'll have the answer to this. How much are we bringing in through special assessment every year?
It changes per
Could change.
project.
It would all be dependent on what projects are active.
It's less than 10 grand.
For the couple of projects we have.
Yeah, but
For-
and that's under the 30%, the 15-30% policy as it is right now. So, I mean, that was a thought that I had was, back when Jeff was, we have some of these other income streams, especially the two that he mentioned, that seems to me like if we were just to use that money to pay for whatever the cost of the homeowner would have been, I mean, I like that. maybe that's a piece of some of this overhaul. I don't like the idea of just throwing out the special assessment policy altogether, but now it feels like we're just moving money from one pile to another pile.
Like that.
That's our job.
Right, yeah.
Literally our whole job description.
It's like the lottery.
Well,
Education.
and of course, keep in mind that we account for every dollar we have.
Mhm.
So that would be a very politically popular move, and I understand, and, you know, frankly, it makes a lot of sense. But now we're gonna take that money from somewhere else, so.
Well, currently our general fund balance is just growing. I mean, I'm all for having money set aside in the rainy day fund. It's just, that's when they built the solar panels, people thought, oh, my electricity's gonna be cheaper. When we put in, you know, when we allowed marijuana storage, people thought, oh, that tax money's gonna be a great benefit. I frankly haven't seen it. I haven't seen the benefit.
$600,000 would do less than, it'll do a half a mile of road and that's it.
I'm not asking to put it on an entire road project. I'm
Right.
saying, as a citizen, when you come through and say, hey, we're redoing your road, this was gonna cost you $500 a year, but it's not gonna cost you $500 a year. We're gonna take that money and we're gonna apply it there.
Actually, I think, tell me if you agree with this. So if you combine that with EE2, capping the dollar amount that could be applied to special assessment, so, you know, here's a good option. Say we put together a assessment roll, it's gonna be $500 a year, and we say, no, our policy is $250 per year, you're still contributing, but, you know, we're gonna find money to make up the difference. Maybe you say, you know, we'll allocate solar array money or marijuana money or whatever to cap that dollar amount for the citizens.
And there's not currently a cap,
As far as I know, no.
but even like a business that's at 100%.
So I think that's what the policy was attempting to do back in '89, which is
That's just new.
if you're an industrially zoned, you're a business.
Yeah.
Therefore, you are paying a higher rate.
Yeah.
But that's not how it necessarily works out, and frankly, needs to be reworked.
They might also, like I'm thinking of John Connolly, like their lot might be a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, well,
Right.
thankfully that road's fairly new, but
Yeah.
yeah, at some point. So, Madam Mayor, at this point, you know, I think I've seen some, I guess, agreement with some of these policies. Would the board be okay with me working with Commissioner Brady to kind of bring back a suggested course of action? Because it seems like he's the one who's most interested and has some ideas. And then we can bring it back to the board with a more focused policy. Or really, anybody, I don't care, but it seems like Mr. Brady's most interested in it.
But
Mr. Adler,
Just
would you-
find out, do you want
I'm
to
very
work with
interested. I
that?
just have more questions that I'm like, it just,
I
I'm
am
totally
concerned
reiterating what Jeff
with
said.
the
I'm gonna go down the
economics
line.
of this city, that I don't want to put anything that is burdensome on any of this industry. You know, if we had been very affluent for the last year or so, but no, I go to the grocery store and I see the people in the grocery store, and they are not what I call affluent people. They are struggling to make ends meet, buying eggs, and I hate to use that as a little bit of a cliche at this point.
Well, they're gold now.
Yeah, but I am concerned that we would put a burden on the citizenry at this time. So the least that we have to take from them, I am for. I understand that, you know, you buy a house and, you know, you're responsible for the sidewalks and the streets and all of that kind of stuff. I just don't know if this is a great climate, maybe better next year. But at this time, I would like to see it be a little less obtrusive to the pocketbook.
What I was actually asking, because Mr. Womack wanted to know if he could just work with Commissioner Brady, and Commissioner Swindell has had a lot of conversation as well. So I think it should be at least two.
Is this a subcommittee? You making a subcommittee?
Well, yeah, that's certainly a good idea, maybe a subcommittee to work with staff to develop the policy. Now, if you guys want to take.
How do you feel, Commissioner Allen? you wanna get in the, do you wanna write up everything that you want for our city manager?
So there's pros to the special assessment, cons also for the millage. There's pros and cons. I was kinda talking with Mike, possibly of a millage, but showing a match of some sort of kind of like what Jeff was speaking about. I think a lot of the times we just ask for money, but we're not good at storytelling. So nobody wants to pay, I don't wanna pay extra money, but if it's costing me $50 to drive on better streets, 'cause this is not a problem that Word is facing. It's the entire state of Michigan, all across the board. It's expensive, and I don't know. I don't like the special assessment aspect because we're telling them we're gonna do it and you're gonna pay for it. That part is hard for me to swallow.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not asking for it. And I know they want their street done, and I know they don't wanna pay for it. But I understand why. It's because we have other stuff that we also have to pay for, like we discussed today, equipment, stuff that citizens aren't really thinking about. Like they just go to the toilet and flush, whatever down the toilet.
And hope that it
And
goes
hope that it
down.
doesn't come back up. Well, we have a whole wastewater treatment plant that is, way beyond just a flush of the toilet. I can see how a millage would work. I don't know the last one, how it failed, how close it was. I think it was pretty close. But the timing.
Less than 300.
I think it
The
failed by
timing-
17 votes, actually.
But it's like
Last
different
one.
times we're living in now.
It
I think
is,
the
it
timing,
is.
I don't know. I don't know if it would
17,
pass because of the increase of the cost of living. It's quite the predicament we're in. I know I
So
did not
do
give
you
any
wanna
clear
work with
direction or.
Mr. Womack as well? Well. Are you in agreement that Mr. Womack?
I am in agreement that we need to figure something out because.
But how do you want him to do that with the staff and Commissioner Brady and?
I mean, I could put together.
I would actually like to see Petrie get her feet.
My feet are dirty every single day. Do you want me to tell you how I get them dirty? You don't want to hear it.
So I can
You
work
make
with
that decision.
Yeah, I can work with anyone on the
Nobody
policy,
can be,
but-
doesn't sound like we have a consensus.
Well, like the three of them could.
Well, two of them, because if we
Oh,
have three,
yeah.
it's gonna be a quorum.
Yep, you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean.
They can work it out somewhere.
Mr. Brady and Ms. Petrie, if you guys wanna work with me on this, we'll.
Willing, yeah.
Okay. So let's get together, we'll have a little meeting and we'll at least talk about where we wanna go. I think a lot of this stuff is gonna be stuff that, staff is just gonna have to get the right language on, but look at the things I put together as a policy perspective about how we wanna move into the future and we'll go from there.
Okay. All right, so I believe with no further business on our agenda.
Okay,
that I-
so, this is why I didn't think we were gonna finish this tonight. Because we're already 25 minutes past how quickly I want to get it done. So goals and objectives. I appreciate you guys working with me on the CIP and the special assessments. Unfortunately, those are the more pressing issues for right now. Because we need to have that stuff done first. Let's see, my cookie do still work? All right, so goals and objectives. This was completed by the previous commission. You can see this, I think it was updated in 21? I believe so.
So we're still going through this, huh?
You know, we've held a number of public forums, even before you guys, some of you were on the commission. I know you guys attended those. We brainstormed a lot of ideas, but you know, I want this to be a little bit more elevated than that type of situation. Because I think unfortunately sometimes with public forums, you get one idea that everybody focuses on and then all of a sudden it's something to do, right? I want to have a little bit more reflection, so I don't want this to all be completed today. I suspect we'll have a couple of more sessions that we'll discuss this type of stuff. But I also don't want to hold this here all night. So what I'd like to do is kind of go through the goals and objectives that were previously on there. I want to talk about what ones you think we've accomplished and which ones you think maybe are just not going to be part of our goals and objectives going into the future. Then, read my memo real quick. So a couple of this is like process type stuff. So we can start brainstorming tonight. Certainly don't want to get deep into it because I think we're going to have a couple more, you know, meetings, public forums, discussions about that. But also from like a public participation standpoint, how do we want to get input? Do we want to establish timeframes for adopting these new goals and objectives? I'm not in a rush to get this done, but clearly it's something we should be doing as part of kind of like the budget. So over the next 4 or 5 months would be ideal. So let's at least start with that question, which is, you know, public participation. What I understand, previous administration kind of worked with the department heads, put together goals and objectives in front of the commission, and the commission kind of discussed and approved those. Does that sound about right? Close?
Yes.
But you know, you guys have been to a couple of my public forums. You see I like to deal with the public and kind of get their thoughts and input. But obviously this is going to be your goals and objectives, not the public's. So the question is, how much public input do you want before we start adopting, you know, the goals and objectives? So let's start there. You know, we have a tax bill that we send out in what time for the summer taxes?
End of June, end of November.
Okay, so end of June, we could send out a questionnaire for the public saying, you guys have any thoughts? That's at least a free way to get something out to the public. A lot of time, a lot of effort, and then if we get those responses back, that's a ton of data compilation. We could also put something on our website. We could send out kind of emails. We could just hold public forums. We could invite people to come and do the public forums that we've done in the past. And of course, you guys are, you know, the professionals. You're the elected officials. You probably know everybody in the city. So you could also just go to the grocery store and say, hey, what do you think we should be working on the next couple of years? Any thoughts about how you guys want to go about involving the public?
Not by going to the grocery store.
I think including it in the tax thing, because it's, you're killing two birds with one stone, but I think that we should offer, just like what we were talking about tonight, where we need communication with our public. So we can say, you know what, we're holding a forum on special assessments, and, or we don't have to call it that, we could just, you know, where we're communicating to them or explaining to them what we do and why we do. And then it would be up to them if they want to attend that, but there may be people that have great brainstorming ideas that are there and say, well, how about this? In a community that I used to live in, we did this, so I think it's a great thing. Instead of just saying, like, what would you like to see us do, we could break it down and have different forums where they can, you know, maybe in January we let them know, hey, in February we're having this, in April we're having this, so that they can kind of see ahead of time what we're discussing or explaining.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, if we put out the tax bill, we're not talking about getting this done even remotely close to during the budget.
No, right.
We're probably looking at November-ish time before we could get it done. You know, another thing is this is a balancing act, right? You guys are the professionals, we're the professionals, this is stuff we deal with on a daily basis. Sometimes when you do stuff like that, you're spending an awful lot of time of educating or re-educating somebody who's been miseducated. Now, does it have value in itself from the perspective of, do we want people to be educated about what, you know, it takes for our city? Yes. Do we want to spend 4 hours at a public forum doing that?
Yeah, I don't.
That can be more complicated.
Yeah, I don't think 4 hours.
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Swindell.
We have had a lot more public forums In the last couple of years, definitely, or a year and a half even. But I will say that the people in this room are the people that are there and not very much of the public attendance. Very, very few people, so that's not touching,
But we
that's
have
not
to-
touching enough people.
We have to communicate better on how we let them know that it's happening. Because like, for instance, this meeting, if you go to the website and you click on the calendar for today, this meeting is not on there.
Yeah.
And it's a different day and it's a different time. So we didn't let, I mean, these people obviously were paying attention, but, you know, we have to be communicating on our, you know.
So the calendar should just be removed from the website, because it's so much extra work to manage that. But, you know, we have I believe, a public participation plan. At some point, you have to, the public has to want to be involved too. We can't shove it down their throats.
Right.
We also can't be spending $1,000 every time we want to communicate with the public.
Right.
Mr. Brady?
I've looked at this document quite a bit. I think when you're asking the question of how do we involve the public, like, to call this a goals and objectives document that's not the kind of thing you want the public. That gets you comments like, put a spotlight on the water tower.
That's a great idea.
Which just becomes that's not a goal or an objective, that's a task, that's one CIP, item, if even that. So goal setting, I think, needs to be a little more focused. There's lots of different acronyms that you can use for goal setting, but that's not the kind of thing that I would even necessarily think the public is going to come into a meeting prepared. They're gonna come in with, hey, can you do this thing?
Yeah,
And does it?
Single task.
So this document gives us are we gonna consider that or not? Does that match up with our goals, our overall goals? Like, even this one that says work on the city's image, public relations, that's a terrible goal.
It's a broad goal.
It's very broad.
And
I mean, it's a great goal, like, let's work, like, but is it improve? Is that, should we have like an action word along with that? So I don't see where the public is going to bring
Yeah,
the
it's,
type of
it's,
things.
it's very
that we
difficult to
want.
understand if you've accomplished that goal too.
Yeah.
So, you heard me say, well, great there, being business friendly is working, right? I've been desperately trying to get the city to be viewed as business friendly. Will I ever accomplish that goal? Who knows? Because eventually you're gonna have one person come and say, well, I stubbed my toe at City Hall and therefore they're not business friendly. Okay, does that mean we're not business friendly? No. But yeah, you're right. This is one of those difficult things where, are we talking about soft goals? Are we talking about hard goals? Are we talking about CIP items? Are we talking about?
Master plan. our master
Yeah, I
plan.
mean, we do all sorts of things.
So many layers of goals.
But your citizens will come in with a task.
Sure, and you know what? Honestly, we want to hear that too. Put a huge spotlight on the water tower. But then at some point, you guys have to be able to make the decision. I don't know how that got approved. Did they actually vote on it? I don't know. But one of the things we're going to do eventually is, how do we add things? How do we remove things from this list?
Or recategorize.
Well, and are these good categories? I mean, marketing our city.
Mission statement, then your goals and objectives, and then all the tasks go in those categories.
Well, and are these good categories? Marketing our city, is that a category that needs to be by itself? Infrastructure improvements, is that really something that we need goals and objectives for, or is that CIP item? Neighborhood revitalization.
Kelly had a question. She had her hand up.
Perhaps a suggestion, a city survey, maybe a city survey would be beneficial. Previous community I worked with, they sent out a city survey every 2 to 3 years. They were considering a road millage, for instance, and that was an opportunity to put on the survey, would you be interested in a road millage or that sort of thing, as well as give residents the opportunity to write comments and that sort of thing. So then you could get community feedback from city residents. And then maybe once that list is compiled, maybe then you can see what do the residents want and then formulate goals and objectives from there.
So similar, in my previous community, we put out a survey with the tax bills. And we got back pretty good stuff. what struck me the most was we got a lot of comments from people saying, this is awesome, the city's never done something like this, I really appreciate you asking my opinion. We also got a lot of people where the question would be, what do you think about the police force? And they'd say, the water is too expensive. You know.
Well, they feel
You're gonna
like they
get that.
contributed and they feel like they're gonna be
Sure,
hurt.
but-
If we do a postage paid return envelope, they're
Well,
better.
That'd be very
So-
I know it is costly, but you're going to get people to respond.
So I'm gonna
I
veto
just-
that right now, and I'll tell you why.
Necessarily, I've done it many times.
Because you can do things on the computer now that can be automatically compiled.
Right.
Because in my previous community in 2017, we sent out an 8-page paper survey and got that, right? Well, who do you think compiled all that information? I compiled every single question, every single data point, and for months afterwards at the dinner table, I'd be eating with one hand and compiling data with the other. I'm not willing to do that again. So we're gonna need to hire a company or somebody who can put this on a computer, which we can then have automatically filled in. 30 people said this, 30 people said that. But as far as like sending it out there to get people aware of it, yes, tax bills, Facebook page, whatever we need to do. We definitely want more participation. Another problem we had in that community was, we only had certain addresses that were in our possession, largely utility bills. So if you had an apartment complex, we didn't have an address for every single apartment. So we ended up sending one to the owner of the apartment complex, he wasn't gonna fill it out. So now you've got a significant portion of your public that you're not really getting
We
access.
charge them income tax and they file a return, so the income tax list would be the list you would go off, not the property.
Well, I know, but I'm saying we just don't use the only address. But also, if we're sending out tax bills, there's a huge portion of our population that we're gonna get that notice out to. So-
But not in, there's huge chunks you're missing.
Yeah.
Giant complexes, right? Chard Ridge, Silver Maples, any apartment complex, any renter, it wouldn't touch them.
Yes.
And we have a lot of rental units.
And
in
I'm
the city.
saying, I think we need to have utility bills, I
Right.
think we need to have some way to get a hold of renters. And, frankly, you saw people from Elba Township, Mayfield Township, well, maybe their opinion's less valuable to us. They still have opinions, and they still work in our community, and they still spend money here. So we do still want their opinions, but, and that's a policy question for you guys, do we really, how much do we value people who don't live in our community? So, neighborhood revitalization, parks, recreation, cemetery, et cetera, police department, branding, general topics. And then the rest of this is all kind of staff stuff. So, I mean, there's kind of a lot of stuff going on in this document. It's a little messy. So I don't know if we really want to follow in the footsteps of what was done here previously. We've got the master plan, we've got these public forums that we've done, and we're talking about a huge portion of this is, do we want the public involved? And how do we want the public involved? Because that's gonna take time. To send out questionnaires, to set up the survey, that's gonna take months of time. So are we prepared to get into this? And if we are, do we wanna start talking about things that we've already accomplished, as I kind of outlined at the beginning of this discussion?
Commissioner Brady.
Can you help me understand how this fits in with the master plan? And, Josh, you might have to help me. We're having a conversation about this, maybe at convention, about how, like, planning and zoning has to follow along, is it along with the master plan? Or is it along with its goals and objectives?
No, okay. So yes and no.
Master plan is kind of like your guideline.
So it's actually written in the master plan in one of the first couple pages, this is what your zoning ordinance is, this is what your master plan is. Master plan is kind of like the guide. The zoning ordinance is the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
for
this
instance-
is just for fun?
Kind of. I mean, I don't want to say just for fun. This is, what do you want your staff working on? Soft goals that, I mean, look, you saw the CIP today. You see what we're going to be spending big money on. But, I mean, does that tell you what public relations we want? I mean, do you want us working on public relations? Do you think we need to improve our image somehow? Like I said, one of the things I've been working on with no direction from the council is being business friendly. I think that's hugely important based on the feedback I've gotten from the businesses. So is that something that you want to adopt as, you know, something from a marketing our city perspective, something you want city staff to focus on?
These goals are pretty much some of the commission and some staff and some manager. It's kind of the wish list, but then there's projects.
Mm-hmm. It's the
What they
projects
were
being
hear-
mixed
it's
in.
what people were hearing in the community.
Yeah.
And you know what, honestly.
Changed throughout the years, but it had been around for a while. I'm not sure exactly when. You have to research that or when it started, but at least 15.
Well,
Plus
okay.
years ago.
So here's a good example. We had multiple people today comment about how they want pickleball in this community. And maybe this is a lack of communication on the city's behalf or a lack of, you know, people paying attention to the communication, but, you know, we put 3 or 4 new pickleball courts behind the community center. We're planning on putting, I think it's 6 courts over at Crampton Park. You heard Smith Arenas is gonna be putting some pickleball courts over there. You know, we allow the basketball courts at the rec center to be used for pickleball a significant portion of the time. Is that enough? And how much money are we willing to spend on that? You know, again, they're very passionate folks, but do we want to spend $1 million to put in free pickleball courts so that people can play pickleball? I can think of way better things to do with $1 million.
Is it $1 million?
Commissioner Listman.
I'm going to backtrack just a little bit.
Question.
When we have these meetings where the public's invited and the staff comes and the commissioners come and we sit around and we throw out ideas and we put it out on the wall, to me, that's a time for the creative juices to start working and to get new ideas. Does that mean we can implement them all? No. And are some going to be stupid? Yes. Are some going to be fabulous and take a lot of time and a lot of money? Yes. But I like that concept. And you know, I come out of Oakland County and I come out of Rochester and Rochester Hills, which is extremely dynamic because of the mayor there. And one of the things that he does the annual State of the City. And he is a showman like you've never seen before. Everybody in the city wants to go see him. They have to rent the high school out, and it's an amazing experience to see the city like that. And no wonder he became what they call America's mayor. I guess what I'm saying is sometimes you have to jazz it up a little bit because frankly, our meetings, I mean, it's hard work we have to do, but they're frankly very boring for the people who come here, except if you're a pickleball person. But I really think in order that we have to work a little harder to get the people involved, and you need a hook. I'm sorry, even in church, you're gonna do a big event, you need the hook to get the people in there. You need a hook to bring people in. So some of the things they've done in Oakland County and the various cities, because I work for congressmen and I had to go to meetings all the time, is that you make it exciting for them to be there and that they want to be there and they think that it's kind of fun. Now, how do you pay for that? You have to go to your business people. You have to go to the car dealers and say, can you put on lunch for us because we're going to have a meeting where we're inviting the public. So I just think it's a good time to just think out of the box and try to be creative because we have really good people here and you have a great staff that we have to help them reach more of their potential because I think that they're great people and they're hard workers. Okay, that's my spiel. I'm always Pollyanna, I'm sorry.
Well, no, the idea that you had early on was a great one, and you said if we put a focus on a certain group, let's just say we're highlighting at one of the meetings a couple Girl Scout troops, and then they come, they're gonna bring people, they're gonna listen, people are gonna tune in to watch them or listen, they'll have a small presentation, and they get their picture taken with a paper in front of the Lapeer sign. And I'm not saying do it every meeting, I'm saying, like she said, a hook, something to bring the community in. And when we say, do we really care about their opinion? Here's my thought. I came to every meeting for 2 years. I think I missed 3 and those were due to deaths. I didn't get paid to do it. I was interested in my community I wanted to come and see what was happening. And so anybody sitting in those seats, I'm honored that they took the time out of their day to come and either listen or share their opinion. I don't care if they're from Mayfield, Alva, or whatever. They come to our city. I had one constituent call and say, you know what, I'm not from the city of Lapeer, but I was offended by a comment that was put in the paper by one of the commissioners saying that we don't, we're rude and we don't need to voice our opinion. They come here to use our schools, to use our stores. They spend money here. This is their city. They live out in the country, but this is their city. So I think we need to honor and be respectful and listen to what everybody has to say. They may not pay city property tax, but they use our city. And we just need to be very aware of them and respectful.
Fair comment, of course.
Don't ask them how we spend our money though.
Of course, if somebody
That's
comes in and says, I don't live in your city, I don't pay your income tax, I just want you to spend $1 million on my personal issue, do you care about that concern?
I don't take it that way. I take it as a suggestion where they're saying, hey, if you could do this, this would bring people. And they're right. They are retired people that might come here and play pickleball
Sure.
and eat lunch or shop or whatever. Just like we built the disc golf for people to come into our community. It's not a revenue generating thing. It's free. Same with pickleball. But it was made to bring people in, just like the pickleball. I'm talking, excuse me. So I just think we need to just really be cognizant of everybody's needs. And I don't think they're saying, could you pay $1 million? They're saying, you guys said 2 years ago you were gonna do this. Are you gonna? That's what I heard. That it's an interest for some people that wanna come here and spend money. They don't wanna drive to other cities and spend their money. That's what they said. So
But we are in the works of doing what they wanted.
Right. I read that. I'm just saying they didn't know it. So.
Commissioner Brady.
I really like some of these departments. Can you maybe go up one to the table of contents? So the police one is great. I mean, they've got seek departmental accreditation, check plus. I think that this document to me makes most sense to keep as one of those big checklists where we're not necessarily gonna buy that, we're not gonna spend money on that, but it's gonna take a lot of work from those people. Yeah, so to have that direction for our police chief to go through that. Housing department looks like they have a very similar, there's neighborhood revitalization. Parks is a little bit kind of maybe mixed of a checklist versus not, but you can go through here and you can check off the things that they've done. I like that. It's probably the city manager's stuff that's in there, marketing our city.
I feel like I just got voluntold.
General topics. I don't, again, I'd like to see what your checklist for the year is, but to me, if we want to have this document, we want to go forward with it, it's mostly good. I think we could go through it as, say, what did we accomplish, ask our staff what they think they're going to be working on, and if we want to add some things to this document, I don't think it should be the kind of things that are just kind of one-off project type things. It should be, because that already has a place in.
Yeah, and you're hitting on a good point, which is, man, how many times can we repeat the same stuff sometimes? Blueberry got CIP, we just went through what we're planning on next year. You guys got sent the full document, which is a 6-year list. A lot of stuff is gonna be included in that.
Yeah, so probably the buildings department's gonna have, they're gonna be the one, not buildings department, DPW's gonna have the biggest list of asks, but what's their guiding direction, right? I mean, theirs would be, keep stuff working. That's gonna be a hard one to write.
That's good.
Yeah, toilets flushed, that should be maybe on there. So it's just the departments that have, maybe that apply easily to do that are on here already. And whatever your list, if marketing the city maybe is what you're talking about with business friendly, but.
Yeah, it's partially, Melissa Petrie, sorry, Commissioner Petrie. I try not to use people's first names.
Hey, that's why I was naming
Commissioner
it.
Petrie, I strongly believe that we have done traditionally a poor job of communicating with the public. I think we need to do a much better job of that. But then you gotta balance that with the free, you know, because if we start sending out mailers for everything we do, I mean, that's gonna be a line item by itself.
Right. I'm just saying we have to hit every, like, for instance, the senior citizens that don't have Facebook.
Sure.
We have to hit them somehow, so let's make sure we hit each, maybe not a return envelope thing with postage, but there's some old, yeah, there's a lot of them, but there's a lot that aren't. My mom's 97, she has Facebook.
I was just making it.
So I'm saying, my mom is more willing
Making
to
me
fill out a
old here.
survey and send it back in, or bring it in and drop it off. And there are people that feel more comfortable doing that.
Sure. No,
So
you're
we have to
absolutely
try
right.
and hit every,
Another great option is to go to the community groups. So the Optimists, the Lions, the Kiwanis, because those citizens are gonna be the ones who are involved in the community already. They're already dedicating their time, they already know kind of what the issues are.
right.
So we need to do a better job of specifically communicating with those groups, which I try. Every time I get an invite, anytime something big's going on, Rodney's not here, but Rodney's involved with, you know, virtually every group there is. But yeah, it's a multimodal approach too.
But the taxpayers are really important to hit. They're paying property taxes and income taxes, and so we do care what they want.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not saying the Optimist Club,
Absolutely.
I'm not saying.
A lot of various clubs are residents.
Right, no, I know, some of them aren't, right.
They're
I'm
not
just
a
saying,
resident, they
I
own
think we have to
business.
go by,
Well, like you were saying a minute ago,
Utilities.
if somebody's from Elba and they're, you know, coming and shopping in our community, yes, we are concerned about their interests.
right.
The question for you guys is, how much do you want to be concerned about that? And are there, again, we're not going to be discussing these things, you know, but, okay, if they're proposing something that's going to bring them into the community, yeah, great, we absolutely want to hear that. If you don't own property in the community, do we value your opinion about special assessments that much?
Well,
Not.
that's what I'm talking about to the residents,
Yeah.
that type of thing that will affect them financially.
Correct.
That's right.
What if we put a community section in this?
Like community input, like this is what the community talked about? Yeah, I guess the end of this is, we could try to work on this, but I think we need to kind of move more towards interaction with the public, getting the public input, getting a understanding of the pulse of the community, of what they want. But then still, you guys, us, the staff, we have to be able to take the value out of that, take the direction out of that. Because like I said, if we ask them, how do you feel that the police department is doing? And their answer is, we think the water's too expensive. That doesn't really guide us on the police department, right? So we have to be able to kind of collate that data and then kind of take our experience and understanding of what people want and then make a document of it. I guess that would be my end thought on this. So I don't know if you guys want to continue kind of working on this, if you want to take this to more of a public forum like we've done previously and kind of do it that way, or if we want to start with this greater expansion of kind of public input with the surveys and online stuff and that kind of thing.
I think open dialogue like this is important where we're all together, because we aren't all together to talk about these things. So I know it has to be publicly done, and it's important because Josh used the word a few weeks ago that we're a team. I've been on teams before, and often this doesn't feel like a team, and I want it to feel like a team, but if we don't get to discuss things and listen to how the other ones feel, it doesn't feel like a team to me. So we need to be able to discuss ideas and thoughts and, you know, goals and objectives. So I don't think, and then break it down to us as the commission, what we think we want to accomplish, a public thing. I think it needs to be
Okay.
different things, and then take that information and come up with it.
Okay, so I don't think anyone's preventing you guys from discussing ideas at meetings. But if that's how you want to do it, then how do you propose we get the council's input? And we're having a meeting right now.
Right.
Do we want to go through every single item and say yes, no, yes, no? Do we want to do a brainstorming session? How do you envision it?
Majority of this stuff has been completed, or it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, we got like 1 year left, so a lot of this is done.
Madam Mayor? Mr. Howard?
Every year, we used to do a brainstorming I don't remember what we called it, but it was around January, December. Am I off on that date? We used to do it every year, kind of like a goals and objective meeting and training.
Which is how this got developed, and that training.
Yeah, and then we would go over the goals and objective, and we do that every year.
I thought
Just
that's
to go
what the
through it.
Train Depot thing was supposed to be last year.
Add, take away. But it was more like, we'd meet over breakfast and.
Workshop.
Yeah,
Workshop.
Also, I mean, this is
Breakfast, lunch, snacks.
Yeah, it was like a
Dessert.
half-day type thing.
Who's
Okay.
buying, right?
So similar to what we did with,
Good.
yeah, just through Good
Yeah,
Shop.
and there might be some, might have some training there, and then we'd have time to go over the goals and objectives.
Commissioner Brady.
While Mr. Atwood and I were at the MML convention, we came across this Tune Your Community, remember that, where we,
Yes.
and then we also did, so basically, it's got financial security, infrastructure, environmental sustainability, lifelong learning, public health. So it's, kind of community categories, and we just kind of rated them, roughly rated them, and then compared our rating system. It'd be nice to do something like that. And then the other thing that we had was, like, it's called a community partner mapping. I know nobody's gonna be able to see. It's just a big brainstorm map that links to all of the different businesses and schools and whoever else might be there. I don't know if you.
Yeah, Thus, I remember that first session I was at, but,
This was in Mackinac. I don't think you were there.
no, we've done something like that.
Okay. I mean, would your MML people come and do that training with us or run us through that mind map? I'm sure Murph would love to come and.
I think, I love Murphy's the man, but yeah.
To go along with a workshop session, that would be a great training piece, and then,
Yeah.
really just,
Because they're, sorry, were you done?
yeah, just, I don't wanna shift the structure of this too much. I just think we go through and say what has worked and what hasn't worked, and I'm with the grocery store approach of, before that workshop, we just do the best we can to find out from everybody who actually talks to us what they want to do. I mean, we're gonna reach out in 10 different directions instead of one. That's a lot of resources, in my opinion. I can do surveys and internet surveys and stuff like that, like in my sleep. We could make one of those and send it out. But you're talking about like trying to reach every grandma in the town, like.
Hey.
You do the best you can.
I
Favorite name, okay?
I love that grandma, but.
I'm saying we need to reach the residents for sure.
But are you saying you have to?
Call me
Have
grandma.
to.
I'm saying,
have to
he
get-
mentioned the water bill or
Yeah.
the tax rate. Perfect. We're not
Sure,
killing two
you know,
birds
we
with
can
one
s-
stone.
Except for people that rent, then they don't get one.
They don't pay.
So
water
I would
bill.
be least invasive as far as what it actually takes to get that out, like what makes sense to us that we're already doing that we can easily get to. But I'm not thinking that
So
we
have
need
different
to.
avenues, we have the.
Well, yeah, we,
Put it in the newspaper.
So maybe we do a survey, and then we do
We don't know.
let's get all the information, then do a workshop, and then talk about goals and objectives and include that.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable approach, and it's kind of where I was trying to lead you guys. I just
And
don't-
maybe we could get Jeff to put it in the paper too,
Well-
like, hey, we're gonna be doing this survey.
I'm sure that as a business decision, he'll help us out, but, yeah, I mean, yeah, the goal is to get as much input as possible.
Right.
We definitely want the grandmas, we definitely want the young people. By the way, that's the other issue we had here. It seemed, because we asked our age group, it seemed like the 75 and older crowd had like a 99% return rate, and everybody who was under the age of 25, like a 10% return rate.
Because we were required to do that.
When we went.
I know, I'm just saying,
Kids
so.
don't use paper.
it's-
We have to figure out how to get all of them.
Well,
That's right.
and encourage them to fill it out, but I mean, obviously you're skewing towards Silver Sneakers type territory versus, Smith Arena type stuff. But
Not
no,
necessarily, because parents are gonna want input. Parents that are sending their kids to things like that will want input.
yeah, the 35 to
But
45
they're
group
not-
didn't respond either.
Yeah, sorry.
But, no, I think that's a reasonable course of
Hopefully.
action,
Well,
is,
there's a few.
I have several.
I think we need to figure out a plan to get a survey out. I think we need to get the input back from the public, And I think that we use that as a springboard for public forums, the council kind of picking and choosing goals and objectives from there. And we can bring in a facilitator if you guys want. I got mixed reviews on Mr. Goodshaw. Some commission members thought he didn't do a very good job. I thought he did fine.
I thought you did.
But I got mixed reviews. So, any further thoughts? I mean, we're kind of beating a dead horse at 8 o'clock. It doesn't,
I think
I
we're
mean.
good to go.
Could I at least get agreement that just going over the goals and objectives as presented is maybe not the best course of action?
Yeah.
Because, again, we were here for, quite a while today, we didn't accomplish anything. Apart from maybe identifying it's not the best course of action just to brainstorm at a session like this and fix it. And it sounds like there's at least consensus on we need to get more input from the public. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So how about staff develop a plan for, how we plan or would like to get the word out, how we plan to get their input back, and then after we kind of get some agreement from the council on that, we start developing the survey itself. Because we asked a bunch of questions in my previous community that got no input. People didn't care about them, they don't, and I don't know if they don't care, or if they think it's so great that they have no input. Because as you guys know, people are 8 times more likely to complain about something than say, hey, you're doing a great job.
Right.
So the police and fire department, no comments, everything was wonderful. But then the water bills, water bill, too expensive. So we'll have some work to get the survey questions in order.
Would we include in the survey questions about assessment for paving streets?
You could.
It'd be interesting to see what people think about that.
Keep in mind that you're gonna get 8 times as many people saying, I don't want to pay more taxes, I just want my road fixed for free.
Yeah.
So you guys unfortunately are stuck in the position of making unpopular decisions.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else you guys want me to address?
Also an adult decision.
Yeah, Mayor, is there anything else you're looking for?
Nope, I believe we've covered the agenda that you presented to us, and it's time to adjourn this meeting at 8:02. Good night, everybody, thank you.